Hi, hello, hi, welcome. Ha, I'm Noivus. Hi, I see, hi, Bucket on Head. Hi, Lolly. Hi, Arple, lovely to see you. Linyalnverse, I hope you enjoy the VOD. I hope you have fun at anime night. That was very nice, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Oh my god. I prepared a lot for this, and yet I didn't... I was like going through chapters like, oh, I'm going to make notes on all these things about what to talk about. And then I got like 7 chapters in and I remembered, oh yeah, this is like a full day read. I don't know why I think I can skim it like 2 hours before the stream. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't have much of a format. I have a bunch of images that I would like to share. I will wait a couple minutes for anybody who's running late so they don't miss that, although I guess I could show them again later on. And then I will be going through chapter by chapter. How is Ditchwink on this fine day? I'm doing pretty good, Lolly. I had this past week has been like kind of a brain goop week, which is not great, but yesterday a lot of things came back online, so I'm feeling much more confident in my ability to produce cognitive thunk, which is good, because there's a lot of it. I will be playing a pre-recorded video of me playing Power Wash Simulator, and I forgot that I'm bad at that game, so that'll be an interesting visual, watching me just like completely struggle. Like for some reason, anytime my character model was like not directly on the ground, the nozzle would just like just fling itself in a random direction every few seconds. So I wonder if it's like causing anybody motion sickness. Feel free to let me know and I can just like put something else on the screen. Yeah, goodness, I should not stall. I should actually get into this. Okay, I don't know if there's anybody here who doesn't know what I'm talking about. This is a 127,000 word sifloop slowburn fanfiction about about Instars in Time. I wonder if I should put a disclaimer on the screen of like ESAT spoilers, of like 2-hat spoilers. Because yeah, immediately, oops, look away, Loop is Cypherin. Gasp, 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 yes, we're in self-cess territory. And I started the story back in, I didn't start it in August, I posted it in August, and it ended in May, and it took 9 months to gestate, and it was a whole thing, and I didn't write fan fiction for 30 years, and then I wrote this, and people responded really well to it, and I'm insanely proud. So this is my final victory lap before I stop patting myself on the back and just let it exist in the past. Wally, you didn't know? You didn't know? Well, you wrote fanfic. I literally have a shout out to your fanfic in my notes. So let's, I'm just going to start with the image slideshow here. Let's pull it to the top. Let's pull it beneath the bunny so the bunny doesn't get overwhelmed. Okay, so first off, design of my human loop was, I know I wanted it to be like short and spiky hair that kind of mimicked the points of the stars, but then I was reading, this is from an Insert Disc 5 comic called Coffee, about 2 spies, and I was reading this and I saw the fluffy, I guess like anime, like in the early 2000s, what's the name of the, not Lolita, the little like boy characters like Honey from Ouran High School Host Club, or just like very uke characters in general, like all had the duck butt hair as we called it, and I love a duck butt hair so much, and so I saw this and I was like, yes, this is perfect, and I more or less copy pasted it for my design. And then we have The original loop sprites that I did. You can tell the mouth is blurry here because when you resize things in Procreate, it's a mess. But the eyes, the actual pupils are copy pasted from the loop sprites. So here we have a little happy. I will be posting a bunch of these images to Tumblr after this if you want to yoink them in their full quality. So here are all the little sprites that I made. I tried to copy the general loop emotions here. I like this one. Pensive. Being very stern with their stardust. And then this was the original cloak design that I made. And I designed this. I was so stoked about it. I spent hours trying to find what type of cloak this is, because I've seen people draw like Sifrins in it, and I've seen animes with it, and it just... that was like a full day deep dive. Anyway, I designed this, and then I said, you're gonna have to draw this motherfucker so many times. Like, me from the future came back to the past and slapped me in the face and said no. So then I redesigned it to be the, the double-breasted blocky thing. Here is an unused art, because I just thought it was boring, of them. They got the haircut, but they're still wearing the cloak and hat, so everyone still thinks they're Sifrin, and it's gotta be a bummer being famous. That must suck. Arple, me from the future came back to slap me in the face is a fairly accurate description of ESAT. It is! That's so true. These are... I never clean these up because I didn't really like them a whole lot. So here's the Loop buying their gloves so that they can cover their wrists and being like, haha, look, no stolen goods! They can finally show the shopkeeper that they're not a thief! And then that first phone call, or call craft to Sifrin, where they're just like huddled in the rain, and Sifrin's little face, and then we see in the corner rough drafts of Loop doing impressions of the party. And just a little doodle that I did of, I think this is Loop wearing Lunette's t-shirt before I was like, they don't have t-shirts. As much as I love them in a t-shirt, they don't have t-shirts. I just like the way that I drew their hair. Eepy. Loop and Lunette! I have various little doodles of them, but so many of them are like way too sketchy to even make sense of to the human eye. Here's them cuddling. I just wanted to show the height difference. I don't think Lunette is like way taller than Loop, but like Loop is short. Loop and Sifrin are short, so. And they're both in heels. Gay, homosexual, gay. The t-shirt was invented to replace button-ups. Fun fact. Ooh, that is a fun fact. Yeah, the second we locked on to t-shirts, everyone was like, that's it. That's the ball game. We're never wearing anything else ever again. This has become the default thing that people wear. At least in, like, Western countries. I don't know. This is an unfinished. Somebody in my ask box labeled the ship name Moonshine, and I thought that was so cute, and so I was gonna do a whole like celestial thing where like Loop has a what's it called? That like the Grecian little like golden leaves in their hair, and it was gonna be a whole like Grecian god thing, and yeah, no, I have zero follow through, but I think the work in progress is cute, so I put it here. It was originally worn under suits to protect the napples. The napples. This is the protective bralette to keep the star from burning the shit out of people. I don't super love this one, but I don't know. It's in there. It's in the mix. Also, it took me so long to be able to get the backflips of the hair to do what I needed them to do. By the time I did it, their hairstyle changed. This is from a comic that I will be finishing, that I was trying to make comics that would lure people into reading the fic. So this was drawn maybe like 2/3 of the way into the fic, and then was just like totally scrapped because there's like 2 panels where I have to draw a hand, and so of course, hands. So I did do a little comic of the practice kiss scene that I really adore. Yeah, that'll get posted in full. And then this was just another doodle of that when Sifrin returns in kind and does the little like lip bitey thing, and so we have a Loop after the fact being like, I gotta remember that lip thing for later. They're so creature, Your Honor. Your Honor, I wish to destroy them. Yeah, I want to put them in a blender, watch it spin around to a beautiful oblivion. This is cute. The arms don't make any sense, and I didn't bother with hands, so this is cute. Okay, this was like I didn't post this anywhere, but you can click to see it at the end of the Loop self-discovery fic. I will get into Laurent the farm boy later because I have so much backstory for him that never made it anywhere. I just became very, very obsessed with this like stereotypical farm boy that I created. I literally invented him just to give like Loop something to jerk it over. And so I drew this little thing of like teenage Loop having their sexual awakening to farm boy abs. I love this. Soup. And then I had more. This is more on Laurent that I guess I could just talk about. I had like one of the differences in their stories was the reason, because basically they worked on a farm for like a couple years as a teenager. And so I had this idea that one of the key differences in their stories was the reason they left the farm. So in Loop's story, they talk about it during the Bonnie chapter that they had a cat that was kind of like a surrogate mom cat, basically, that was like looking after them, named Mimi, who was just like a barn, like a kind of feral barn cat, so didn't have a name. And so Loop named them Mimi because that's the little sound that cats make when they're chasing birds. They do that little chitter, that me 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 sound to, I guess, camouflage themselves from birds, I think. Water sip. And so I had basically their like key Laurent moments I was going to draw here, which was for Loop, Laurent helping them to give Mimi a burial on the right here, and so you can see if the eyes are tipped up, it's Loop. If they're tipped down, it's Sifrin. For Sifrin, it was it more exists in the realm of I wrote a scene of it on Tumblr. I don't think a lot of people saw it because this is really Schrodinger's canon, because I wanted Sifrin's reason for leaving was that the matriarch of the farmhouse was kind of like sexually harassing them, and I like it for the story and the character and the angst. I dislike it in terms of what it means for their top surgery and like boob feelings and stuff, because I feel weird about making the gender thing a like sexual assault survivor thing. Feels weird to me. Not that that isn't like a huge reason for plenty of people to do these things, but it feels like I'm being disingenuous to gender dysphoria by making it be about something else. So that's why it's kind of Schrodinger's canon, because I feel like there's not enough so Sifrin's thing about flinching when people touch them I think it is implied that it is just their lack of physical contact, so it startles them, but also it very much like, it's compared specifically to Petroni, that we can kind of tell from context clues that it is a trauma reaction for Petra based on past assuming physical abuse, based on just like what we know of her and Bonnie's parents being so bad that they had to get out of Dodge. So that was one thing of like, Sifrin grew up a little like street urchin and is, good at fighting, so probably had to get good at fighting for a reason, and is like a pretty small individual. And so like, I imagine they probably spent a decent amount of their lives growing up being in like mortal peril, so there could be sort of a trauma reaction there. But then also, my knee-jerk reaction to their knee-jerk reaction is also like, I don't know. There could be some sexual abuse in their past, and I would love to see that explored more in fan fiction. Some people do it. I haven't read a lot since I started writing. Something about, I flicked some sort of switch in my brain that instead of reading someone else's thing, I could be writing exactly what I would want to read. And it's really made it hard to be a super cool member of the writing community that I'm not actually engaging in my friends' works. It's been far too long since I've actually read. Like every once in a while, I'll read like a porn one shot, or I'm following that Idol AU role play. Like it's rare that I delve in. So I don't know. I'm sure maybe more people have written it than I'm remembering, but this was my take on it. And so I just have a little bit from the scene of that I wrote of Sifrin. Basically, like, once they're on the farm and they're getting like 3 square meals a day, their body's like puberty time, and so the first summer they're there, it's like not an issue for them to just play in the river with the kids, and then the second summer that they do so, everyone is like, holy shit, Sifrin has tits, right? And then it becomes an issue. And so I have a whole scene of like Laurent coming to the rescue and protecting them. So that is the last. I should have maybe put some trigger warnings on that. I hope it wasn't too bad, because we are moving on now that Laurent is a big hero. Okay, I will talk specifically about Laurent a little bit since I'm on it. Nico on rereading thought that Laurent was an old man, and I think maybe I didn't write that super well or super clear. The idea is Sifrin was maybe about 14 and Laurent was like 16, 17. So definitely saw Sifrin as like and Loop, both as a younger sibling, whereas Sifrin and Loop were like, holy shit, right? So yeah, he's just a really stereotypical farm boy who's just like very much a knight in shining armor to them, and a sad story of them having to leave that behind for different trauma reasons. So I have to give them their trauma. So this was the tavern one, the one where Loop and Sifrin dance and Loop falls in love without realizing that they've just fallen in love. My original idea for Sifrin's outfit was, they don't really have any, like, Sifrin is very pragmatic with their clothing. It's all tactical gear, right? And so they didn't really they were just gonna wear their regular clothes, their dumb long sleeve turtlenecks. Yeah. It's protective. I don't know. It's tactical. And so Loop was like, no, you're going to wear my skirt and my tights and you're going to go out. But of course it's Loop's skirt, so it's way too short. And so I had little doodles here and there of Sifrin just like nervously tugging down the hem of the skirt. And I like the way that I drew the binder underneath the shirt here. I just think that came out really nice. But then when I decided that they were going to dance together, I was like, no, I think Sifrin needs to have pants. And also I needed to specifically have him buy something new so that he would have something to wear in the date chapter later. Yeah, I also loved the way that Loop came out in this. I something that I really love is the idea of them, their curls are only loose because they don't actually take care of their hair. And so I don't think it ever made it into the fic, the idea of, I think I put it in the festival episode one shot of them actually looking after their hair, and then it gets super curly. Just messing around. I love a Sifrin in a ponytail. Just a little doodle. There's so many chapters that I didn't get I didn't start doing the chapter previews for Tumblr until halfway through the fic, but there's a lot of them where I just ran out of time, or I couldn't get the pose right or whatever. This was going to be for the chapter where Loop is mourning their party after the Mirabelle chapter, and so this was the, Sifrin just always hugging them every time they broke down into tears, but it didn't turn out. I couldn't get it done in time. But it's decent. It's all right. here was the original plan for the date outfit. This was done so long ago. My initial run of the fic was that every single character chapter, Loop like became friends with everybody at the end of the chapter, until, yeah, a la Breaking Bad, the character themselves said to me, like, no, that ain't gonna work. So you'll have a little note here that says, had Mira style hair. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. So we've got them saying, this isn't a date, and I don't even care, despite having dressed up super duper nice. Nervous but excited. I referenced this in the Tumblr post that I just made. It's one of my favorite SNL skits of Zac Efron reprising his role from High School Musical, where he's giving a graduation speech to... he's like an alumni, right? And he's giving a graduation speech, and he's like, guys, college is awful. Nobody else sings. I was there on my first day at college and I was feeling nervous but excited. So I started singing a song called Nervous but Excited. Nobody sang along. And so that's burnt into my brain forever. So I use Nervous but Excited a lot. And then I love the little note I have here at the bottom, a real non-binary Thomas Thorne that I did unconsciously just sort of dress them like Thomas Thorne from BBC Ghosts, but with a big foppish bow. I love this picture. It's so cute. Look at their little vests. Look at their dumb face. They're so excited for their date. This was going to be the original, I mean, I've shown this before, but I just wanted to say this was going to be the original cover art for the date chapter, but I found it to be too spoilery, because I didn't want people to know that they were going to blow up at each other like that, because it's a cool, fun little twist to be like, oh, this is going to be the confession thing, and then just they completely, like, tear at each other, right? So I really like this, having them like I was gonna put more elements of the bridge that they're on, of them just having their like inner demons finally unleashed on each other, and I really like how it turned out, even though I can't really use it for anything. It just looks cool. I just think it's neat. And then this, I want to clean it up someday. This is I call this when you know, you know. It is that moment in the Petroni toy store chapter where Loop brings Sifrin the cat ears and is wearing the rabbit ears and brings them the little stuffed cat and is like so deeply like themselves in that moment and unguarded, and also just like openly showing all of this affection and like any excuse to touch Sifrin's face, right? Tucking their hair around the headband and like squishing their little cheeks and stuff. And so that moment of Sifrin being like, oh fuck, I fell in love. Whoops, oops, 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 oops. It's so cute. I don't love how I drew Sifrin's hair, but like everything about Loop is so precious. I'm a big fan of the V-neck sweater over the turtleneck shirt. I think it's a very cute look. Oh, they're so baby here. Okay. Remember, these will all be posted later. And then this was I'm never gonna clean this one up, but this was the inverse of like, but before I had Loop have their moment of realization when they get dipped during the dance at the tavern, I was like, they technically have a second revelation, like on the bridge when Sifrin is fucking like unloading on them, right? So I love the inverse of like, oh, Loop is so sweet, I love them, versus like, oh my god, they're so angry, they hate me so much, I love them. And then the original Sifrin's was just going to be like a button-up shirt. And they're also sleeveless here, which I realized didn't work in the timeline with the like arm scars. And I mean, you can tell some of these are so old just because there's like enormous plot points missing from them. Sifrin's face, and this is very good. Huh. They're not nude. No TOS, we're fine. This is the bathtub scene. It's tasteful nudity, you can't see any bits, don't worry. I couldn't get the pose right. This is Loop kissing Sifrin's eye scar in the bathtub chapter. I just couldn't get it going. I couldn't get it working. It's cute though. Look. Okay. I don't love this. I don't love the expression. I tried some stuff designing the dress. This was the original dress for the despite everything, it's still you changing room scene with Isabeau. It's fine. I don't know. I don't like looking at it. And then these are someday I need to post a speed draw of like, I don't know that I've ever put as much effort as I put into this fucking series of images of. I was very stoked on this. I originally, before I was like, you're being a fucking moron, I'll hide the bunny real quick. I really wanted to animate this because the reason that this chapter got illustrated was because there was just no way to describe this scene that I had in mind. I love anything in a show where they like go into the character's mind, especially like these very trippy like mind palace things that you get sort of around the like climax of a show. I can't think of any at the moment except for Infinity Train when they go into Tulip's memories at the end of the first season. But I mean, a lot of shows and things do. I mean, even ESAT did it sort of technically with like Maldupé's, however you pronounce that Frenchedly. But yeah, I really wanted specifically the walk cycle to be animated, and a walk cycle is like the hardest goddamn thing to animate, so I just couldn't get it going, and then I landed on the series of images of them moving further down the hall. I just like the idea of them, you know, they're like, oh, which direction do I go? And the change god goes through yourself, which is just something I really like the idea of. I think the idea was them exiting through their own star, which is like simultaneously their physical and spiritual body, right? It was kind of a whole thing. So I had them just sort of like going down the walk of their lives. We have them with their body positivity dress, and the hair has grown out a little bit to show that time has passed. We have you know, them in the classic fic format. We have ESAT loop. We have start again a prologue loop. They're very sad. We have traveling with the party loop. We have teenage loop. This is loop on the farm, so they have like short hair to keep out of their face. They have a sunburn. They have work boots on, and you can see there's like sort of dirt on the knees of their pants. And then we have a little street urchin loop that absolutely, like, if you read the image description for this one, it's really heartbreaking. Like, their hair is matted and tangled. They're covered in little, like, cuts and band-aids. Their stuff is all, like, frayed, and, like, the sole of their shoe is coming apart. I really sort of went hard in the paint on making that, like, the saddest little, like, this child lives in the woods type image. And then, of course, the most heartbreaking of all, the little baby Loop being drenched from washing ashore after losing everything. Fucking, I love things that are heartbreaking. I really do. I love a comedy and I love a tragedy, but I do have a limit. I do have a limit on tragedy. I'll be like, haha, I love this. It is so sad. And then I'll be like, here's a fanfic where Sifrin slowly dies of disease, and I'm like, no, actually, I don't think I want to live in that world. Thank you very much. You gotta have breaks, in my opinion. Soggy baby. So these are the original storyboards. I cut it down a lot because there's only so much I could really draw. So I sort of had them staring at the broken boat. And then I had this image of like the hallway behind them, and all of the versions of them would step forward onto the beach here. I love the start again Sifrin's legs here. They look like a Side Night and Happiness character. all of them step past them onto the beach, and then I had, and it's not included here because I cut it by this point, I did want to have all of them working together to rebuild the broken boat. I thought that was a really cool image, but that was so much that I just wasn't going to be able to draw, so then it got shortened. So here's Loop walking in with one big shoe. I need to fix this image in the final because there's like 80 tangents in the image that made it into the fic, and I need to fix it. But I wanted to include the storyboards because I just think they're like way more expressive than what it ended up being. Like, look at this. Devastating. Look at this child. Look at this sad child. that image of Reagan Arataka. Look at this sad boy. And then Loop's little devastated face. I wanted them to be embracing more. This is really me showing my whole ass when it comes to just drawing two characters interacting. Who am I? Thinks about it. Sad smile. Let's get you dried off. There was also going to be, the pacing of this kills me because there was going to be an image of them getting up, which would have really helped the pacing, but I simply couldn't get it done. Okay, so that's it for my slideshow of bonus images, at least the ones that I'm happy to, I mean, there's plenty of doodles that I just hate, but that is the nature of being an artist. You're not going to see the shit that I don't want to show you. Yay, yay, yay. I don't know if I should get into the chapter by chapter part or if I have a handful of questions that Earth posted to the Tumblr. I'll just knock these out real quick. Here's a question. Do you ever look back and wish you could rewrite scenes? Yes, I do allow, if something is egregious enough, I do allow myself that. Like, if you were to reread a little bit before posting the final chapter, I did like a full rewrite of the monstrous meet cute lunette chapter because it just wasn't clicking for me. It's almost entirely the same thing. There's just a bunch of stuff that was that chapter has gone through it. I'll get into how much I struggled with like trying to incorporate the canon of Loop trying to murder Sifrin in a way that worked, and Lunette was a big part of that. So writing her story to be, you know, both good for a character that I would be sitting with for a while and good for matching Loop's freak was a whole thing. And so I there's like a certain level where I allow myself to rewrite. Like, I was thinking of rewriting the whole like explaining asexuality to Sifrin thing, because I was like, this is like a little too like textbook, you're in class, the teacher is teaching you. And then I went back and I reread it and I was like, actually I've gotten like a couple comments where people are like, I learned about asexuality, so I think maybe I'm just gonna let it be what it is. I'm a parentified oldest sibling, and I really deeply value information. So if you've noticed anything about my fanfics, it is that everything that I write has some element of teaching in it. Like, there's always somebody teaching someone something, because it's something that I adore so much. Is just like sharing useful, helpful information is probably my biggest love language. So you will always find that it is to the point where there is a level of kink to it. I will say, if there is a teaching kink, a discovery kink, if you will. I don't know that there are any scenes that I really wish I could rewrite. I mainly just would love to fix a lot of formatting. Did you ever worry about your depiction of Loop, Sifrin, and company's mental states, like thought spirals or flashbacks? Constantly. I definitely have like a moral OCD, and I'm very, very conscious of. Yeah, I mean, I'm only human. Like, there's definitely like I was writing panic attacks for a long time, just sort of the way that I experience them without sort of like I get them so rarely, and I know they work differently than most people's, and I definitely like embellished elements of them. And it was only maybe like a couple months ago that I was like, have I been writing panic attacks incorrectly for like a full year? I just fully never even considered that I might have been. But most of the time I do like actively worry. Early stages of this, I did realize like I was kind of writing a borderline personality disorder type loop, and I didn't really follow up on that. But if you I want to say I was doing it on purpose, but it mainly just happened, and I didn't stop it from happening, was more or less what that was. I'm a very like low emotive person, and I don't know if I really shot myself in the foot by writing a high emotive person. Yeah, I don't know. I worried a lot, but I also really trust. I'm a pretty like intuitive person who knows a lot of psychology stuff, so I really tried to trust my gut and terms of characterization. And it feels correct to me, but also nobody has called me out on anything, so I might have fucked up egregiously. What is the weirdest thing you research for the fic setting story? I'm so shitty about research. I should research so much more than I do. I really should. Let me turn the rabbit back on. It's not just a static image. In fact, speaking of static images, maybe let me just boop ba doop ba doo boo boo. Let's start this Power Wash simulator, and you can watch me absolutely struggle to I have like an ancient Windows 10 with like a 2 gig NVIDIA graphics driver, so it's a little bit of a mess. What was the question again? Weirdest thing that I research. Nothing too weird actually. I researched like rivers in order to have that initial like river analogy. I immediately forgot all of the terminology that I learned for that. Except channel. For some reason, channel stuck with me. Channel is the like ground that the water goes. It is like the shaped ground that the water goes through. That is the one that stuck with me, and everything else is like nothing. Like I don't remember what a fucking eddy is. I couldn't tell you. What else did I look up? God, I did very little research. Oh, the big thing that I did look into, because I really, really wanted to be as respectful as possible about it, was self-harm and like how to help people when they're self-harming. I couldn't find the original like resources that I found, and you know, do your own research if this is ever like, don't trust my shit or like copy it. Like definitely do your own research if this is something that you are dealing with. But the one thing that really came up a lot was to just not put any guilt or shame or blame on the person or judgment or anything. Like if someone is self-harming and they feel like you are going to judge them or think less of them or try and stop them, like they're less likely to reach out to you. And that is like the most important. That this is also something that I've read with having a friend who's in an abusive relationship. Like it is equally, if you want them to be able to reach out to you, like you really cannot be putting like blame and humiliation on them. Like they need to feel like they can come to you without judgment in order for you to stay that safe person for them to reach out to. So I turn that into a a really self-indulgently angsty romantic thing of like do it while I'm there, which is so like, it's so early 2000s like Invader Zim of me. But I don't know, I think it's sweet and romantic. Hi Otter. Eddies are little spinny bits, calm parts in the river, spin around a lot. Canoeing background, nice. You're a person of many talents and expertise, and it delights me. yeah, so those were the questions that I had. Feel free to ask any questions that you have, like, in the chat at any time, and I'll answer them. But otherwise, I think I'm going to go through chapter by chapter. Where is that section? I've gotten better at OBS, but it's still a little slow. I tried to make notes. I really tried to make some notes. I only got about 7 chapters in, and then there will be a lot of pauses while I skim over things. So, chapter 1. Okay, here's your first immediate fun fact. It's immediately awful. So the story opens with like a poem of Loop, like, or at least a poetic thing of Loop, like, coalescing back into a physical existence, which I did. I was like, oh no, this is the first thing that they read. They're gonna think the whole fan fiction is like this. So I had like an immediate disclaimer that's like, it's not all weird and esoteric like this. They're just coming back to life and it's weird. It's a real fanfic, I swear to God. It's not all them like talking to God or whatever the fuck. That opening poem was originally written about Loop being in subspace after anal sex. And it was like so poetic, and I like ended up not using that scene anyway. I was like, this is so poetic that I opened the fic with it, so I'm sorry. Yeah, and then I subconsciously, of course, wrote the scene of Bender talking to God in Futurama, which I'm really happy with the art that I made for that. No, I was Sifrin once, and yes, I saw it was going well until everyone died. Let's see. I knew in writing it, I had like a lot of the broad strokes down, but I knew in writing it that the universe was 100% lying. Like the fact that they even bothered to visit Loop at all, I had this thing of you know, the universe is just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's, right? Like they are just trying to fill in the blanks and get their math to line up, right? And they know that Loop is, as the Change God said, very familiar with their knife. And so they kind of were just like, how can we make it so that this person honors their wish and actually goes to meet their friends so that we can fucking make sure that this is like over and dealt with? And they're like, all right, we'll put on a whole like sob story about, we'll tell them what they want to hear, basically. But I mean, the inception of this as an AU, I mean, I was always, you know, I'm always thinking of post-fic AUs, but the sort of inception of this concept was I was just like so sick of, you know, like Loop, all your friends are dead. Like you essentially the idea that Loop murdered their party was like a very not just upsetting concept, but just like a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat of like all of this traumatic shit for Loop that just made their shit so much harder to write and conceptualize. And I was like, how would the universe have to work in order for the party's like physical bodies to have not been altered? And then it was all really vibes based as all the pieces of the thing came into place. This idea of just like, you know, you were, and then the stream thing came about specifically to explain like Sifrin in particular. Like you take the water out of a stream, the water from the source is going to fill it again, you know, and then the channel is like more or less in the same shape. Which also gives me this freedom of like, I like Loop and Sifrin to be, I guess, virtually identical. Like I like them having these differences that are not just based on what happened to them in the loops, because that is of course the main, you know, reason that they branch away from each other. But I liked them having like, you know, their canon events are all the same, but they kind of like, you know, got there a little bit differently. Which I think is really interesting. So something that I found when I was looking through this was the initial non-sifloop plot of this fic was going to be just depersonalized for a second. That sucks. The initial plot the initial non-sifloop plot was just Loop reconnecting with their party, right? Like that was just the main thing, was how can I make them reconnect with their party to make this all one big happy family. And the whole identity thing actually happened when I was visually designing the character. Hold on, I'm just a second. That, I mean, you know, it's fun to go in like a really aesthetic direction with Loop, because Loop is a great character design. You can get really into those deep aesthetics, but I was just like, what realistically would they be wearing in terms of Loop as a character and where they're at as a character? And that is where I got into the whole like how much is I discovered on a replay the character that you find in the bodycraft room, frozen in the bodycraft room, like mid-change, when you go back to the town and like talk to people in the epilogue, I think they have like sparkly hair or something along those lines, and that feels like it sort of negates my whole thing that that bodycraft would not sort of allow for like little stars or whatnot, whatever Loop's got going on. I just think it's already so rough for them to have their life turned upside down the way that it was, and then to also be like visually a freak of nature is like really heartbreaking to me. Like that must be so hard. I mean, I fucking hate being perceived. Just imagine having like that going on top of it. And so I really was like, I just think that they want to be as low-key as possible and like hide all of that, while simultaneously just not wanting to be fucking Sifrin. Just like seeing yourself from the outside like that is like not great. I think that would make anybody really want to change a lot about themselves, and also just a lot of the like self-hatred that has just gotten completely out of hand with Loop on so many levels. Not great to begin with, got so much worse. And then the idea that like this universe already has a Sifrin, like this role is taken, you need to find a new one, are all huge, motivating factors. And it did lead to a design that I find to be upsettingly bland. There are so many really, really great Loop designs out there, and it bums me out that just by the very nature of their character that it is a little like drab, but I think it works really well for character motivation. But yeah, that is, I mean, literally just through the visual design of that was how the actual main plot was formed, because I really had to think about where Loop's mind was at and what their motivations were. I literally discovered that last night. I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. The universe did technically turn Loop's boobs into an eyeball, so that's how that worked. The old writing thing of like, money makes the world go round, money is the source of all problems, so if you want to make a story about anything that isn't money, you just have to give your characters a lot of money. And I 100% was just like, yeah, they got paid for being saviors. Here's a bunch of money, Loop. I don't want this to be an issue moving forward. They get back onto it. They spend the rest of their savior money on their house in Bamboosh, and from then on, it's like they do actually have to budget again, so if you want things to be normal for them monetarily, it does even out. I'm just going through my notes. Maybe I should give like chapter summaries or something. The initial chapter is they're in space. The universe is like, hey, you wished, your original wish was to stay with your family, just like Sifrin wished, and we technically never gave that to you. So here it is. Here's a body. A body that has every function. This is such a funny piece of canon of every function needed for the best possible quality of life. So there's no organs included, and it's really like bare minimum. I don't know. But they wake up in Bamboosh. They're like Sifrin again, but their body is still like covered in stars. Sifrin and I did give them different like shaped eyes because that's just fun visually. And it looks like Loop. It doesn't look like Loop if you don't tilt their eyes up like that. And then they begin their journey, and there's just a few moments where they like, writing the first 3 chapters I played ESAT for the first time in April, and I was writing all of this in like July, I think. So a lot of it, I went through that game so fast because I was like, wait, hold on, it's gay? I need Sifrin and Isabeau to kiss, and so I like speed ran it to try and get to the end to see them kiss, and I missed everything. I missed 2 hats. I literally learned about 2 hats when I was in Loop's image gallery looking at their portraits, and then one of them was Sifrin, and I was like, oh. And then I learned the rest through Tumblr, and I will forever, anytime I see anybody playing ESAT for the first time, I'm like, flip the coin in your pocket for the love of God. Don't learn about 2 hats the way I did. It's so much cooler in game. So the first sip. The first 3 chapters are written on vague memories of the game, and then I replayed it, and I got all the Steam achievements to make sure that I got all of the side quests, and I also kept like really detailed notes about all the characters that I'm thinking I might release at some point, because there's a lot of cool stuff in there. And I did write Loop as someone who, when they have big emotions, they laugh in response, and I didn't realize that was canon until I replayed it, and I was like, oh, okay. I remembered correctly. Okay, I've been looking at notes and not at chat, so let me check out chat. Yes, was the book Loop got about stuff? Do those exist? I know friends will want those, including me as an Arrow Ace person. Already have several good BDSM general idea books, but I'd love to add a basics one. There must, right? I didn't have anything particular in mind. If I did have something in mind, it was like one of those, because I had one of the like kid ones of those that is like super not helpful in any meaningful way. It just like covers the basics, right? Of like, this is normal. It's normal that your pubes are a different color. Yeah, I don't have any good references, unfortunately. I think in this day and age, there must be some really good ones out there, right? And there must be some ones that like include stuff about asexuality. I should hope they exist. Okay. Back to notes. Where was I at? What was I doing? Okay, chapter 2. Chapter 2 is just sort of a quick retelling of Loop's story. So so timeline is a problem. I fucked this up so bad. For some reason in my head, it took Loop 3 months to get from Dormont to Bamboosh, and it took the party like 4 or 5 months because they were going slow with Sifrin, right? And someone like calculated it, and it would have realistically taken them like a few weeks. And I feel so stupid because like it literally wouldn't even take that long to get from one end of the United States to the other, let alone fantasy France. It would take them like no time at all, and I do not know. I mean, wasn't that like, it wasn't Oregon Trail like a 3-month journey or something? Maybe I was thinking about like Oregon Trail, but also like I think maybe the oxen on the wagons might have been slower. I don't know. I don't know why I had it in my head that it would take them so long to get from place to place. But it, you know, if for some context for Loops, like, you know, solo adventure, like think of it taking about 3 months. So that's where they're getting all of their like personal growth and stuff. The idea of them just being like, I'm just like not gonna be Sifrin. There's something really big about Sifrin's characterization that I fucked up and I don't regret it. because I think it was more of a video game joke that it doesn't feel like it quite fits with their characterization. And I can't remember who says it, probably Odile, of like, Sifrin, are you doing that thing that you do in every town where you just walk into everyone's houses? So there's a canon that, like, everywhere they go, Sifrin just goes into everybody's fucking house, right? Because, like, you know, that is the weirdness of video games, is that in, like, every video game, you just walk into every single person's house for no good reason. And then, of course, they put, like, you know, ID5 put the in-universe Vogardian lore that, like, everybody keeps their door open so anybody can just walk into their house, which is a very cute plot thing. But you know, I do not. Sifrin went so long without friends. Truly, I do not think that he is the person who puts himself out there in friendships. I think they're very much a wallflower. So we can say that canon is them, like, silently walking into a person's house, listening to what they have to say, and then leaving, which is how it goes in the game. But for Loop's journey, they're more like, I'm going to make a point to reach out to people and prompt them to talk about themselves and, like, engage in this conversation and ask them if they need help with anything and do, like, odd jobs. And so that's sort of where they're at for this journey of just, like, I'm going to make connections with people. I'm going to figure out, like, who I am in relation to people. And so they get more of that, like, practice that way. And they also, like, I have a little bit of this in the Petra chapter of, like, you know, people are pretty gregarious in Vogard, so they are also sort of getting their touch therapy just because people will, like, clap them on the shoulder or throw an arm around them, or, like, a kid will, like, yank their hand in some direction, just because they've shown themselves to be, like, a very friendly person. So yeah, this chapter is the makeover chapter. People who read this chapter immediately when it came out did not see that I, after replaying the game, because it was just too perfect, I went back and I inserted a bunch of quotes from the Isabeau friend quest, because they so deeply are in line with the whole thing of just all of his stuff about change. And then, of course, I had to include the line that was so jarring when I first read it. And then, of course, later, like, it's a direct reference to Two Hats of, like, Isabeau, like, kill my old self with my bare hands. It's, like, such a wild, out of left field thing to say. Let's see. I hate describing how people look. I hate describing how anything looks. I hate describing how people look. I just want to skip over it. Let's see. Okay, I need to talk about the choking. It drove me fucking crazy that I was like, because Sifrin was, like, so, you can either say Sifrin was so craft sick, so of course they lost to Loop, or you can say Sifrin was at level 99 and probably better at combat than them, so they won. But, like, I don't know, I had it in my head that Sifrin was very sick, and it was so hard to write this fic around the canon that Loop did try to murder Sifrin. It's so rough. I think it's a little easier because it's this, I mean, medieval times, or maybe, like, there's maybe a little bit more, maybe, like, violence is more common. It was pointed out to be, like, pretty recently in a comment, and I had not thought of it at all. The idea of, like, oh my god, you tried to kill someone, or oh my god, Lunette accidentally killed someone, and they were like, yeah, Loop also, like, killed the king. Did they talk about the fact that Loop literally killed the king? And I'm like, oh my god, that's right. They did canonically kill someone. It was just, like, fine. Like, they were not like, we're gonna go and talk to the king. Like, no, the plot of the game is we're gonna go kill the king. It was just fine. So maybe there's some in-universe Vogardian stuff that makes this a little bit more socially acceptable. But it was just, like, such a fucking hurdle to constantly write around, and it drove me up the goddamn wall. Okay, chapter 3. What happened in chapter 3? Chapter 3 was Loop and Sifrin on the phone. This is after I finished the game and I realized that I was playing that, like, the range of Callcraft didn't make it to the 3rd floor, so why would the range of Callcraft work, like, between cities, and I'm like, whatever, we're playing Calvin Ball. It works the way that it still has a range, but it's like, maybe the range was limited by the time loops, whatever. I love, I got vaudeville in my veins. I love just writing two silly characters talking to each other. It always turns into a bit, and it's always so wonderful. Let's see. I just have little. Some of my notes are about like singular lines, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. It's not like you're reading this along with me. This isn't like a literal DVD commentary. I something that I am bummed about in my writing that I just could not get myself to write the like touch-starved, touch therapy aspects of these characters. It was just like too like I couldn't wrap my head around it, and it was like awkward and overwhelming. So I apologize that so much of that really got like skipped over, because I think that is something that is so fun about ESAT fanfic. And so I wanted to put a shout out, if you do want to read like really good like touch-starved, touch therapy sifloop writing, go and check out Lolly Lala's writing, because they are the best at it. And I can't remember the name of their fanfic that does it really well. Singing while I open my... Come on, where are my subscriptions? I can find it. The fic is called If I Lead, Would You Follow? Check it out. It's really fantastic. It's really great loop characterization in general, but that is definitely a weakness in my writing, and I apologize. There are people who are much better at it. DVD commentary for fics would be awesome. I would find it a little annoying. Nah, killing is normal. I have good basics of like, it's a fun one here, the topping book, the bottoming book, and more. Oh, that sounds so fun. I should read more. They got hungry and smelled food inside or something. Of the houses, yes, Sifrin is very food motivated. I mean, it is an RPG, yeah, but also like sadnesses are very specifically described as being like not living things, so there does seem to be an element of like empathy and kindness of like, what is the rune factory thing? We don't kill them, we send them to a safe alternate dimension or whatever. Pokemon get knocked out. They're so codependent. Anyway, the chapter they have okay. It is so important to me. This is, I think, a discussion I get into the most about this fic. It is so important to me that the party is like equally culpable in what happens during ESAT. Like, all of them are so deeply avoidant with talking about their emotions, about talking about how they feel about each other, and like they're all so ready to like Sifrin says, I'm okay, and they're like, cool, I'm not gonna delve any deeper. And I think it's really important that extends beyond the fic, because they're not all immediately going to become these like flawless therapists. Like, you know, Sifrin is a deeply traumatized person on like a lot of levels. Like, it would really take a lot to sort of be there for them even as a team, and I it's just really important to me that the party is learning, that they are shitty at it, and they are learning, and they are fucking up. And that is something that I really wanted to I wanted there to be more Sifrin in this story entirely in general, but it was just too much. It was too many balls in the air, and Sifrin's story is so complicated on its own in its own way that it just needs to be its own thing. Like, I really had to relegate Sifrin stuff to the background, aside from just like a few key things that basically that I found interesting or that related heavily to what was going on with the loop. So, I mean, you just have to imagine Sifrin is going through like a pretty similar journey in the background, but I anytime I touch on it, I really wanted to get into the party just like fucking it up. What was the I was talking to Nico about them taking away the knife. That I can't remember the specifics, but I think it said something about Oh, hi. Oh my god. Holy shit, speak of the devil. That was some insane timing. um I No, you're fine. This is at its core very very silly. I think you mentioned that the party I am also the most forgetful. I think you mentioned the party, like, that it was infantilizing to Sifrin in a way that didn't quite make sense, I think was what it was. I don't want to misquote you or your meaning or anything. It was just something along the lines of, like, it didn't, their motivations didn't. For me, it was just like the Sifrin being so unknown and mysterious and finding out that, like, everything they didn't know about Sifrin was what snowballed into this horrible situation. So the idea of Sifrin hiding, like, really important, potentially dangerous things from them, I think would be pretty fucking triggering. And to find out that they have been, I mean, like, it's seriously not uncommon for a reaction to self-harm to be, like, take away their ability to harm, right? This idea of, like, they're out of control, so they can't be trusted, right? Like, it's I got in my head about it. I think they're just very trigger happy when it comes to protecting Sifrin from themselves without really thinking about the why. Yeah, I don't think it's uncommon for people to baby proof in situations like this if they don't understand sort of the why of what is happening, and they're just like, yeah. I don't know if I'm saying the same thing over and over again. Thank you. I just think I think the party would overreact. I think the party would I do think the party would infantilize Sifrin to an extent, but, like, not from, like, an age or responsibility thing, but just from, like, they don't really know a whole lot about mental health kind of place. Of, like, this is how we're protecting him. We're going to treat them like they're in the hospital and monitor every single thing that they do to make sure that nothing bad happens, even though that's, like, that's literally the worst. I think I made my point. I think that was what I wanted to say there. We'll see. There were some comments that, so in terms of Loop, like, apologizing to the party for the strangulation attempt and then the party already having known about it, I think I made that kind of unclear in terms of Loop writing their note to them before arriving in Bambouche. There was, like, some confusion there, so I just the idea is Loop just, like, doesn't know if they know or not and is, like, super ready to just, like, throw themselves on the floor and, like, just apologize like crazy, whereas at some point, and they're kind of, like, going into it being, like, unsure, and then at some point Sifrin is just like, Loop, I had hand-shaped bruises on my neck. Even if I didn't tell them, they could figure out what happened. Like, yeah, man, they know. So that's more or less how that went. And at some point, I'm sure they apologized to the party, but I think they apologized to Sifrin and Canon in the fic itself, like, several times. I have not been changing the images as I go through the chapter. I had specific, this is chapter 2, this is chapter 3. What am I on? Yes. This is maybe my second favorite all-time chapter title. I decided, to my own future detriment, that Sifrin's chapters would have pun names, and what time is it? Truth Hurdy fucking annihilated me. I really dislike puns. I put that in my Loop characterization because I really dislike puns, but also, like, I have the pun autism where my brain is very like relative, like it's good at this relates to this relates to this, and so it does that thing where it's like someone says frog, and because my brain it makes these connections, it's like it pulls up immediately into its little thing every word and concept having to do with a frog, and so then as I'm talking about a frog, I am unconsciously using words like green and jumpy or whatever, right? So I do accidental unconscious puns just because that is the way that my system operates. It's really infuriating. Yeah, puns. They're a little, God, there was like a pun run that I was avoiding in the festival episode fic for so long. Just because I'm like, Sifrin and Isabeau are having a conversation, means I'm gonna have to write 1,000 puns, and I just let it sit there for like a week because I was just angry about it. Okay, Sifrin in the psych ward arc. Yep. Had talked with therapists about how some people use the word self-sabotage without really understanding anything about it, and how oftentimes it's an unconscious way for the brain to prevent being back in a specific situation. Yeah, yes. I mean, there's so much mental health stuff that is just like misunderstood and stigmatized, and the things that people, the titles that people give things and the words people apply to things really don't help. But so many of these like of terminology is created from a place of like how the person is inconveniencing others. Just the DSM in particular is just so rife with that. But yes, we are all killing Sifrin. Well, yeah, that's the game, isn't it? Same, I have memory problems, so honestly, pun to stall for time as I recall something. I love that. You could also do the Gen Z stare, which means I was the stare that basically means you were like socialized over Discord. So I just small tangent on the Gen Z stare, because it does bug me that people didn't really get to the heart of it. It takes the brain time to process what somebody has said to you and then process what you're going to say back. And we have all of these little like tricks that we've developed over the years to like stall for time, basically to fill in that gap so that people know that we've heard them and know that we're about to respond, basically, right? Know that they're not being ignored. And it's just this social nicety thing that we've all sort of unconsciously trained. But then having this generation that was, their social maturation happened during like COVID. So like a lot of their stuff happened over Discord, where like people could not see them, and the delay did not need to be accounted for. And so that's where we see, they're not covering up the time that it takes them to make those calculations. And so then you just get someone silently staring at you, and we're all so like not used to it. But yeah, I don't know, you just had like a lot of people being like, no, that's just like the customer service stare, or I don't know, people just had all these like explanations for it, and I'm like, no, it's literally just like a brain science thing, dog. Anyway, yeah, once you start to pick up on it, one that did bug me, and I'm going to curse all of you with it, Brennan Lee Mulligan's go-to is to repeat the last thing the person said to him. And once you pick up on it, it's a little bit like it does get a little grating, just kind of mindlessly repeating what the last person said. But like, hey, if it works, it works. Give yourself that time to process. Yeah, sorry about that tangent. Dude, I want to write, I'm having like a bad day, but if I have to write a single pun for Sifrin, it's genuinely so over. I leave so many angry notes. I use Google Documents, unfortunately. I leave so many angry notes for myself using the like comment function of just write another pun, asshole. You did this to yourself. You love writing puns so much. Write another fucking pun. It's so angry. Social cues are weird. Social cues are fucking weird. Like, they're not, even if you struggle to pick them up, there are a lot of tricks that you can do for them over the years as you learn. They're fucking weird. It's what's rough is that there's masking, and then there's like something that we call masking, but is literally just like pushing against autistic traits in a way to like connect with people. There are like things that we aren't programmed to do but like genuinely have to do to connect to people, and one of those things is like having some way of showing a person that we're listening. And it's like, oh well, if you don't naturally like facially emote, like that can be rough. I don't know, these are things I think about a lot. Neurodivergence is a special interest, brain science, psychology is a special interest. I've gotten off track. Punipedia. Ooh, punpedia.org. That is so helpful. I kept all of my sources when I would look up puns were like really unhelpful and covered in like ads that would infect my whole computer. Ooh, this is extensive. Called that a punishment. Not bad day, bed day. Sorry. I should know. Yes, I know a bed day. Bed days don't necessarily have to be bad days. They usually are, but they don't have to be. Let's see. Okay, the only time I have shown sections of things I have written to people in real life, one was I did show the candy cunt segment to a friend because it was just too fucking funny to me. That is probably my magnum opus. But the one that I did send a friend because it was just so silly and evocative to me was when Petra gives Sifrin the letter from Loop. And he goes, thank you so much, you smirk. You just made my day a whole lot better. She shrugs and walks off. You mutter under your breath, I envelope. We can address whatever's mailing you and stamp it out. Just the idea that he just has to like expel all of the puns like under his breath to just get out the nervous system. Then you look at the envelope in your hands. Why would Loop send a letter when they could just call? You go to grab your knife to open it. Gone. You always forget. You can't be trusted. They'll never trust you again. You struggle to open the envelope with your hands, tearing it up. Eventually you get fed up and pull off a glove so you can use your fingernails. The envelope is destroyed, but the letter is intact. You sheepishly pocket the shredded remains so no one can see the evidence of your ineptitude. I'm so delighted by that. I sent it to her and she's like, I'm in this picture and I don't like it. Can never open an envelope successfully. Actually terrible, actually torture. You're going to get me? No, don't get me. I'm just a little guy. And then there's like a couple scenes in this. Something I really love about fan fiction versus like media that costs money to make is, you know, with other media, every single scene is there for a reason, because, you know, if it costs money, it'd better be there for a fucking reason, right? Like budgets are huge, but, you know, just doing something like this, you can put in what the fuck ever, and like, you know, if Chekhov has multiple guns, you never know which one he's gonna shoot, right? It kind of makes for a really interesting sort of thing. So I have this scene where Mira and Sifrin are getting ready for bed, and they're talking about like, oh God, are we gonna have to leave? Like, is Petra gonna like us? Are we gonna have to leave Bonnie behind? And it's so deeply like nothing. Like, it's misleading. It doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's dropped immediately after, but it is realistically like what would be happening at that time. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just fucking put it in. Like, this is genuinely something they're worried about right now. Like, it would not be included if this was a paid product. Another scene, and this was one I was really considering cutting. Sifrin goes to Odile to ask when he should drop the bomb of reading Loop's letter to everyone, and I hate how easily I fall into using Odile as like a repository for wisdom. I worry a lot that I put her in the role of being like the wise old grandma. I really try not to, but I also like, I do think it is realistic that like she is like the smart one that I think people would go to for advice. Whether or not she gives you real advice or gives you some wry, smarmy bullshit, you know, is the gamble that you're taking. But I was going to cut that because I was like, this is nothing. Like, Sifrin could just read it. We could just skip to Sifrin reading it. And then I thought about it, and I was like, this is actually a really cool way to show how little Sifrin trusts themselves after everything. That they're just like, I can't be making big decisions like this on my own anymore, and Odile is a genius and I'll just do whatever she says. So I kept it, but I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. The term the siftuation comes from the ESAT art book. Bonnie is my favorite Deus Ex Machina. So the chapter, I didn't summarize what the chapter is. The chapter is the Sifrin chapter where the party arrives in Bambouche and everyone meets Petra, and they're all just kind of like settling in to all of this without Petra like kind of knowing the full extent of what happened yet. But it's just sort of like awkward, and it's Petra being like, Sifrin, you sacrifice yourself for Bonnie. I don't really trust anybody, but I trust you because you fucking get it, right? And then it is Loop's letter that explains, like, I do feel like I cheated or speed ran again the idea of the party. It is so fun, the idea of the party finding out Loop is Sifrin, and that just so deeply wasn't what this fanfic was about. I also think there's just like, how do you explain, you know, when I draw them they have different eyes, but you have to imagine when like the party sees them and they're like, this is Sifrin's face, like you have Sifrin's face, like they would figure it out pretty quick, I feel, with this iteration of Loop. And there's only so many ways you can explain that away, I think. And so Loop, like, not wanting to have to give the whole spiel the second they walk in the door, being like, I'm just gonna send it ahead of time so they can process it and I don't have to deal with like their questions and feedback. Like, they can just know and I can be done with it. Move on, which was also my feeling on it. And then the party's like, hey, Sifrin, the person who tried to kill you is on their way here. We can't let that happen. You'll be in danger. And then we have Bonnie being my Deus Ex Machina, the child of whatever amount of maturity is needed to help the plot along, comparing Loop to a wounded animal, thinking they were going to die. Because that is where their head was at. They're like, only one person can beat Sifrin, so I'm going to fucking steal Sifrin for taking everything from me, right? Like, that, and I did this specifically because there was a piece in the art book where ID5 said that of everybody in the party, Bonnie is the one who most understood what Sifrin went through, just by doing their little like forever school analogy. Like, they just like immediately understood. Like, and I thought that was like a really interesting dynamic, that like Bonnie would just get it. So I wanted to put that in there, and then also, you know, the eyes of a child, to leave it to a child to show you the way, right? Silly side note, there is a gag in this of Bonnie being like, go pick out the best fish, and Sifrin completely spiraling in the fish section about what is the best fish, what fish counts as best, and then Petra be just like grabbing a salmon and then being like, fucking salmon, yeah, oh god, duh. And then after that I played prologue for the first time, and when the fish heads are apparently salmon heads, to which Bonnie says, yeah, because salmon is the best fish. I was like, oh, it's true. No need to be so malicious. What if Petra just kills us straight up? Honestly, wouldn't put it past her. My emotionally intelligent child. Dude, I still haven't played Start yet. It's a little tough because it is very like repetitive of ESAT, but it has some little things that are different. Specifically, there are some story beats that will, if you know what you know about ESAT, will fucking devastate you. There was one part where I had to put the controller down and leave the room. I won't spoil it for you, but it it took me apart. Also, the art in that one is like really, really good. There's like more towards the climax of the game. There's like more art that I'm really delighted by. Yeah. Maybe I'll play that on stream. That was the first time I tried to do a practice stream. I played Prologue and I just listened to myself make really bad jokes and wanted to curl up and die. Okay. All right. That is chapter 4. Sweet Jesus, I'm halfway through the stream and I have 4 chapters in. I'll speed through these once I'm past the initial notes, I'm sure. Okay, yes. This is Loop comes to town, the prophesized hug. Right, yes. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about there are 3 cities that I gave a name to. I had fun just like looking up French words for shit. They're so stupid. No, 4. There are 4 things that I gave French word names to, and they're so fucking stupid. So now I can reveal them. So, the park where Loop and Siffrin reunite is called Emisseur Park. It is a play on. Oh God, I literally took French and I can't pronounce shit. It's a play on. I think it's pronounced Ame Sœur, which means soulmate. So they met. They reunited at Soulmate Park. Rivaux Park is the park where Loop and Isabeau go to feed the ducks, and that is literally just the word rivals. And then like right at the end, I name like 2 cities. So there's a place where Isabeau will eventually go to study fashion, and it is called Neuvif. And it is a combination of nouveau, which means new, and if, which means yew tree. The old English word for a yew tree is York. New yew tree. Wiggles eyebrows. I'm so clever. And then Poitrain, which is the art hub where Siffrin produces their play. I tried really hard not to sound it too much like Poteria. I think I got away with it. It's a combination of portoir, which means port, and terrain, which means land. Wiggles eyebrows even harder. Yeah. I liked making the town names. I hated it at first, but then I was like, I can be a little shit about it. I'll get you, dude. Yeah, I'd like to see you try. I'll be in Poitrain. Well, not in Poitrain proper. Nobody lives in Poitrain. No, you fucking live in an outskirt city and you commute. Shit's expensive. I'm still stuck on Soulmate Park. It's so cute. I know. Look, if a big anime can call it New York City, you can call it whatever. Yeah. I had fun with that. All right. Back to my notes. Oh, I have this little headcanon of like Loop or Siffrin with the party versus Siffrin with Loop, and that like, yeah, they're making progress with the party of like, they do talk more in conversations. They'll say like 3 things in a conversation instead of just 1, right? And then when they're with Loop, it's like, they're just monologuing. Like I headcanon that there's this thing of like, you know, Loop is like a huge chatterbox, right? And Siffrin's like, Jesus Christ. And then Siffrin is like, oh wait, Loop is me? Wait, I can be a chatterbox? Like, and also like, if Loop is annoying, I feel like I'm allowed to be annoying back, and it's fine because that's our thing, is we annoy each other, right? So I feel like that creates this like safe space where Siffrin can just also be a chatterbox, and then like they get out to the party and they're like talking more, but still not a lot, right? And so I like this thing of like, they are showing more of their progress with Loop just because there is that comfort level there. I'm a sucker for it. Oh yeah, I had a draft forever ago in my freaking Tumblr. It is my, oh wait, I had a draft, okay. This is a list that I was keeping of scenes from media that I basically ripped off whole cloth. Oh yes, this is exciting. Okay, so Bender talking to God, Naota crying against Haruko. So this is a scene that really, like, so much. I imprinted on Fooly Cooly so hard. Like, I was Takun's age when I watched Fooly Cooly. It really rewrote my brain chemistry. There's this episode where like Haruko leaves for a long time and with no explanation, and then comes back, and Takun is he's like 12, right? The whole thing of the show is he's like trying to act like an adult even though he's fucking 12, right? And he's just being all like whatever, you're back. And Haruko has this sort of like rare moment of empathy where she's like, come on, Takun, you're just a kid. And he breaks down sobbing and just hugs her and goes like, where did you go? Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me you were gonna go? And it's the most like beautiful, heartbreaking moment. And so I a lot of that seeped its way into the Loop and Sifrin reuniting hug. I think he even says a few of those lines. To me, honestly, like a lot of the just ignoring the age gap of it all, a lot of the like Haruko Naota relationship dynamic I think is like very, a lot of that makes it into the way that I write Sifloop. Like I really think that moment of like I love you and her being so like what the fuck is very Sifloop to me. Okay, there's like a few lines I know I got from somewhere, but I can't fucking find them. Falling apart at the seams is definitely from something that I don't know. I referenced that bit from Emperor's New Groove. We're about to go down a huge waterfall. Yep. Sharp rocks at the bottom. Yep. Bring it on. That was Loop talking to Odile about like trying to figure out the reason that they can't stop crying, and they have a little back and forth that I do think ends with them saying, like is it gonna be difficult? Bring it on. Wherever the tight ass line comes from, and a tighter ass, I don't know why that line is something. Luz and Amity holding hands, I did directly quote this, where they like hold hands in Owl House for the first time and they just like stare down at their hands and they're like, why is this still so weird? I don't know. And I do think I took that quote exactly. So I referenced the same episode of Community in two separate occasions. There's an episode that's a bottle episode where Annie's pen goes missing, and it becomes a whole thing where they lock themselves in the study room and try and find the pen, and they just devolve into madness. I reference so like when Loop and Petra are kind of feeling like on the outskirts, like they leave the house because the party was having like a big argument, like they were arguing about like a battle or something, or maybe a missing pen. I just threw in there. And then later in that episode you find out that Abed started the super Spock autistic character was accidentally tracking everybody's menstrual cycles because he just started noticing a pattern between like when they would be like more upset with him over like social mishaps, right? And he started tracking it, and he was like, by the time I figured out what I was actually tracking, it was already paying dividends. And I think it's like Annie is like, Abed, and he just hands her a chocolate and she's like, oh, thank you, and throws it away when she realizes that's why he's just randomly been giving her chocolates. So I put that into a couple different fan fictions of like Loop no longer being having to deal with like period brain fog, being able to track different cycles and to always have like a chocolate handy for them is delightful to me. Okay, checking in on chat. Claws at the bars of my enclosure. Dude, I need to work on my story now. Infinite Encore may be a fic per snaps. Yes, do it. I mean, you're welcome to do so. Like, hit it, man. The inspiration well that it is. Thank you. That means a lot. The monologuer. Definitely not basing these characters being chatterboxes off after myself. Sip of water. Hi, Lanila-verse. I hope anime night went well. Remembering the people going, "What do you mean tight ass?" and you going, "Oh no, if you haven't heard that phrase before, it's real weird." I fear. I think it is a term that was popular with Gen X that I absorbed through watching TV as a kid. I'm millennial. I think maybe it has fallen out of fashion because I did have a lot of like specifically younger people being like, "Why is Loop talking about their anus? Like, why is Loop comparing their anus to Cypherins?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Oh no. Loop tracking Cypherin cycles, one of the funniest parts of the fic. It is so delightful to me because not only is it fucking hilarious, but it's such a cute, like, subtle way to care for him. It is, I never wrote it, and maybe it will be like a side fic. It is canon that like at some point, like, Cypherin is keeping their bad periods on the down low, but at some point, like, Issa or Odile is gonna find out about it and be like, "Cypherin, that's not normal. Like, it's not normal for you to be in this much pain and distress. Go to a doctor." And I just have this scene in mind of, like, Cypherin stepping out of the exam room with, like, a box of birth control in hand and just yelling, "So I guess you can just turn them off." Apparently, you can just turn them off. Yeah, with endometriosis or PMDD, I, personally have both, and when I got like hardcore hit with chronic fatigue syndrome, it made the experience like worse. Like, they piggybacked on each other and became worse. So I put a lot of like chronic fatigue EDS stuff into Cypherin, with their craft sickness, craft exhaustion sort of thing. And so the idea that I had was like, Cypherin had bad periods before, but now they're just like hitting him like a freight train. And so yeah, at some point before Bamboosh, Cypherin does go on fucking birth control and gets that shit in line. He's like me for real too. I too am birth control right period. Told him so gently. Yeah, the periods that just end your life. Oh my god, in a pool of my own goddamn vomit on the floor. Miserable. From pain, from a pain reaction. The brain fart. Thought: how does Cypherin's malnutrition and actually eating well the first time in his life affect this? I mean, I assume they're gaining more weight. The malnutrition thing, there's they've been like traveling with the party and traveling with Bonnie specifically for like months, and yet they are in game still described as being very malnourished, and so that makes me think that they probably have like a really sort of overactive metabolism. Do we know if does fight or flight does something to metabolism? I wonder if Cypherin like feeling more safe would have any effect on that. But yeah, Cypherin gaining weight to show their like emotional growth and them feeling safe with their family, I think is huge. But yeah, I don't know how it would affect periods or their craft sickness or whatever. But I forgot what I was gonna say a thing. Oh, I was gonna say that even when you take I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, but it's always good to fact check. I'm like 99% sure because I like read it somewhere, but also I read it somewhere long enough ago that who's to say if my memory can be trusted. You do not have to skip periods. I think what I'm remembering is there are like specific instances where you have to skip periods, but it's like rare and very specific to whatever you've got going on. There's literally no medical benefit to taking the sugar pills for a week. And there's no medical downside to not taking the sugar pills. They were literally included because the church, when birth control was invented and was circulating, the church got angry at the idea that women wouldn't bleed. And so they like lobbied and did a whole fucking thing to make sure that they were forced to put the sugar pills in there. So yeah, if you were someone who, you know, it takes birth control in general, but especially takes birth control to like help with period issues, like talk to your doctor about like just taking it continuously, because you literally don't have to put up with it. You will save so much money on pads and tampons. Yeah, the church does that stuff a lot. Yes, it does. It's different on loop with CFS. I know that's right. I don't know about loop with CFS. I have not given loop any physical disabilities, mainly because I wanted to focus on their psychological journey, and because I wanted them to be like the one who looks after Sifrin for stupid, dumb romantic reasons. You can just stop your period entirely. What? I know. It's a fit. You can just stop it entirely. It's fucking like, I mean, once again, there are like outliers where there are people who do like need to pause, but I don't think you even need to pause every month in those occasions. I think maybe you can still take months off. Like, yeah, no, there's no medical fucking reason for it. It's infuriating. Yes, as someone who hasn't had a period in a long fucking time. It's fine. It's also really good of just like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's better for preventing the spread of endometriosis, but I'm basing that one on less facts and more on really vague memories. So, okay. Anyway, little period sidebar. Okay, more scenes from media that I basically ripped off whole cloth. The line in the devastating episode of Midnight Gospel, which if you're really into like, you know, general non-denominational spirituality and like philosophy and the secrets of the universe, like I highly suggest giving Midnight Gospel a try. It was a very weird, fun show to sink my teeth into in 2020. But there's an episode of that where because it's like a guy who did a podcast for a long time and then just basically did an animated version of that. Did an interview with his mother who was dying from cancer, and then of course similarly to him, the mother is like this incredibly like intelligent like person, and so it's a really, if you watch nothing else, like watch that, where they just talk about like mortality and motherhood and the relationship. It's just like really beautiful and well done. And there's just like this, I think it's maybe the final line where it's just like, with all of this going on and all, like I can't remember how he gets there, but he's just like, if you can't do anything, if you can't control it, if you can't do this or this or that, then what do you do? And she just says, you cry. Oh my God. I teared up just fucking even saying that. It's so beautiful. And so I did put that in the chapter when Loop speaks to Odile about the crying, and I think Loop does say something around like what am I supposed to do? And Odile just says, you cry, because that fucking hit me. A handful of people did point this out. I put the Homestuck blah. I think when Sifrin bites into like a potato pancake or something. Blah. Of course, I put in the Mean Girls Get In Loser We're Going Shopping, when I think Loop takes Sifrin out on like a fake friend adventure that ends up being Loop just getting like the hotel room for him so he can have time to himself. You've got to put in a Get In Loser We're Going Shopping. Of course, everyone spotted the Undertale. Despite everything, It's Still You was almost the title of the fic, but felt a little heavy-handed. The Toy Story. I think Loop says this when he's referring to when they're referring to how the party would react to having two Sifrins. There's that line in Toy Story where Sid is using the claw machine and he pulls out like both Buzz and Woody and he goes, double prizes. And I don't know, those little echololly things that stick with you. My apologies. I did put a Has Been Hotel reference. There's like a bit in season 2 where you just couldn't keep your hands to yourself. I can't remember where that is in the fic now, though. I just have it written here. Wow, yeah. Just couldn't keep your hands to yourself. Damn, where is that? Where is that in the fic? Oh well. It says here also that I put in the Fooly Cooly ramen scene, which is a scene maybe that sticks with me the most of the scenes in that show, in that they go on this like fucking hooligan adventure together, and they go to a mini mart and they buy ramen, and Haruko's ramen is just like horrible, and now to, you know, trying to be like a responsible grown up is like, this is why you don't try something just because the packaging looks cool. You have to stick with the stuff that you already know. And she's like, yeah, but look at it this way. Sometimes eating bad ramen is kind of fun. And that is something that really, once again, changed my brain chemistry. And it says that I included that somewhere in the, oh, I did. It was their date scene. Where Sifrin orders, where Loop orders the chicken and potatoes because it's safe, and Loop orders the escargot, which, for the record, had they gotten over their initial "this is bugs on my plate," would have fucking adored, because Sifrin enjoys all food. Okay, chat. Bad Homestuck reference. Bad. Hey, who made you think that you're not allowed to enjoy queer media? Fuck, I watched like one episode of Midnight Gospel and never again. It is not for everybody. It's really, it's quite a whole thing on its own. Torture Dimension. Reminds me of the "eat a snail while I watch" line. That is one of my favorite fucking things in the fic, is that date scene where instead of saying "I love you too," Loop just goes "eat a snail while I watch," which is the most Linda Belcher shit. I love you, Lynn. Eat a snail while I watch. Do it. Come on, do it. Lynn, no, please. There. Bob and Linda are also extremely sifloop to me. I still really need to do an animatic to that clip of like, Lynn, I think I had a bad childhood. Yeah, I know. What do you mean you know? Yeah, it's the way that you walk. People who had good childhoods don't walk like that. It's like so perfect. I recommend big snails more, honestly. The small ones are hard to eat. I'd be down to try it. There's a lot of things that are too, like the idea of them are too much. Like when the people who eat the like chicken fetuses whole, like that is, I will never be able to, I don't care how delicious it is. I feel like snails is removed enough because it's all just one substance. I don't know. Like I know we're gonna have to switch to like crickets eventually. I do not think I'm gonna be able to get my head around crickets. I will die of malnutrition before I eat crickets, I think. Even though I know like a big portion of the world already eats them. I know, I'm terminally American. What is this? This says, like a mix of Swim Bitch from the Boondocks and Parrish from that internet meme. Oh yeah, that is the same. That is also the date scene where Sifrin is like, no, please let me eat your food. And Loop just says, starve. Maybe even starve, bitch. There's just this bit from the Boondocks that is, there's so much from the Boondocks that is like so fucking incredible, but like Ed and Rummy, like Riley and Rummy are like having this like deep conversation while Ed is like fully fucking like drowning in the pool in the background. He's just yelling shit at them like, if one of you doesn't come and help me, you will be sleeping in a haunted house tonight. And Rummy just yells, swim, bitch, and then goes back to his conversation. Oh my god. That's a show to rewatch. I did literally quote exactly that Bart Simpson line that I love so much. I can't promise I'll try, but I'll try to try, which I think Loop says in return to Sifrin being like, can you please try to get along with Izupo? Like, can't promise I'll try, but I'll try to try. Also on the date when Loop is saying things that like Sifrin, like, oh, you know, our next scheduled big fight that we have, like, here are some things that you can dig into me about. And they say general sluttiness, which is a Futurama line of like, when Bender becomes mortal and he's like, like, how do you humans deal with mortality? And they all like name stuff, and Amy's response is general sluttiness. And okay. Some of these are direct fucking quotes. There's a whole movies line where it's like, like, no, that wasn't a good joke. No, that was a good joke, but not a good time for a joke, which I can't remember where that's in there. It's in there somewhere. Oh God, what is it? Oh, when Loop is like, I fucked up, when Loop is like about to go full nuclear, lose their mind, right? They're like in bed with Sifrin and just like time is slowing down, right? And they're like, okay, maybe if I can time travel, I can do today over again. In fact, to make everybody think that I'm fine and everything's fine, I'll throw them a surprise party, which is a direct reference to the show Extraordinary on YouTube, where the time travel guy, his girlfriend like breaks up with him in the morning, and so he rewinds time and is like, we're having a surprise party, and just spends the entire day, like every time she tries to break up with him, he rewinds time to like, she breaks up with him and he's like, well, why, what can I do to be better? And she tells him, and then he rewinds time and he's like, hey, I just got a job, right? Like keeps trying to fix it all day. That highly suggests Extraordinary on Hulu. It's a really fun angle on people developing superpowers in like a modern day Ireland. Of course, the BoJack Horseman line that we all love, it gets easier every day. I can't remember where I used that, but you gotta use it. And then the Parks... I just say this all the time. In Parks and Rec, Leslie Knope says, stay frosty. No, I specifically like forgot the line and I didn't get it right. In Parks and Rec, Leslie has like the flu, and I thought that because she was like about to tip over and she says like, the walls and the ceiling just swap places. Stay frosty. I got the quote entirely wrong, but I had Loop say that about like the hedge maze when they get up too fast when they're talking to Isabeau, and I think I need to rewrite that because it doesn't make any fucking sense. So that's the end of that list, and I have completely gotten off track from going through chapter by chapter. Whoops. Bugs on my plate. They have two textures. Snails is bugs. Balut is an acquired taste. I bet I would like the taste. I bet I would like the texture. It is just it is conceptually so abhorrent to me that I can't get there. Isabeau, I shan't speak. Nah, man, go off. Oh, that's not healthy, very OCD feeding. If I'm not watching the chat, then I don't know what people are talking about in relation to the things. Okay. Isabeau, do not interact. I love the Isa-Loop dynamic in this so dearly. It really delights me. I love a rug pull moment so much, and the one that I was just like so excited about was that turnaround of Loop being like, all right, tell me how you feel, and Isa just being like, I hate you so much. It's like so out of character for the Isa that hates everybody or that loves everybody, which is like, sore winner, Loop, get behind me, I'll protect you. That, you know, Isa just wants to be like friends with everybody and loves everybody, and you know that he tried so hard to make it work, and Loop was just so shitty to them and also like kept hurting everyone's feelings, right? And was just so abrasive that Isa had no choice but to be like, I actually think I really hate my best friend's clone. This is a problem. They hate each other so much. They do reach an equilibrium eventually, mainly just because they have so much natural chemistry that they can't help but like joke around together. And also they're both on Team Stardust, right? They both are like protectors of the Sifrin. They work together on shit a lot, reluctantly. I love that they hate each other. It's cute. I love them as frenemies. Once again, I did try and write all of these chapters. The initial thought was like Loop makes friends with everybody in each of these chapters, but the Breaking Bad thing that I always think about, where they say, like, we don't decide what the characters do, we put up the situation and then the characters write themselves. Like, the characters tell us what they're going to do. And that is so profound to me that it's because it'll happen when you get into the story. You'll be like, oh, you're gonna go here, and the character's like, absolutely not. And I ran into that with both Mira and Isabeau, that I feel every time I see a new people reading it and commenting on the Mira chapter, and I feel so bad, because knowing what I know now, like, yeah, they do come together. It's just so sad in retrospect to be like, both of them really thought by the end of that chapter that, like, they were never gonna be friends again, and it fucking breaks my heart, because it really was just a matter of, like, it was just too painful for Loop, and it would take them time to work through that in order to be close to her. But so much of their, like, aggression and aversion towards spending time with her was just avoiding that hurt, but also because of how much they wanted to be around her, of, like, just how deeply they wanted her to be in their life and to be closer to them. And it was just this, like, just the power of that longing mixed with the power of the pain was just fucking destroying them, to the point where they were fully ignoring Mira's existence, which just sucks. So yeah, no, rest assured, post-fic, like, they slowly work through it until they are also besties. And I always want to, like, every time I see comments on that chapter, I always want to go to them and be like, no, I promise they work it out. But also there's more of the story they need to read first. Whereas Issa, I think things are always going to be a little shaky with Issa. I think they definitely can hold a conversation at some point. It's just, there's always a little bit of, like, they just became very different people, ultimately. Oh my god, wait, I just remembered the part where Loop is like, wow, he's being creepy about Isabeau figure drawing random strangers. It's so funny, because, you know, if Loop saw, like, literally anybody else doing that, they would be like, oh, neat, it's cool to see an artist at work. But because it was Isabeau, it's going through a filter of, like, this must be awful and bad. An unreliable narrator in my ESAT fanfic? More likely than you think. Yes, that was the other rug pull I was so fucking stoked about, was specifically, like, because Sifrin, like, we see enough of Sifrin to feel like we know what's going on with them, but, like, not enough to actually be following what's going on with them. And to have them have this, like, blow up during the confession episode, where it's like, and then I hinted at a little bit when they were talking about writing in their diary, that, like, I was gonna go more into the fact that, like, this is where they kept all their negative thoughts about their friends, so that they didn't, like, leak into their interactions, and it was like, oh, actually, like, cathartic, like, maybe it's okay to have these thoughts as long as you're not sharing them or acting on them, right? But the idea is they are writing in their diary about everyone except Loop. And because of the, like, no one can read, you know, I think Sifrin would develop the combination of the party being helicopter parents, and also having, you know, already read Loop's diary, would probably have a decent fear of, like, people sneaking in and reading their shit. So writing it in their native language, but also being like, hey, there's one person that can read this language and also has reasonable motivation to do so. No, he's not writing about Loop in his fucking diary. And so that's why all of the, like, feelings and resentment and shit bubbles up and fucking explodes, and Loop is just fucking floored. I love that chapter so goddamn much. I'm so happy with how it turned out. There were a lot of big shifts and things that I was really, I just really am, like, really artistically satisfied with it, that I knew what I wanted to do, and it took a lot of shifting and moving to, like, it started as Sifrin's point of view, and then I was like, no, this actually really, it needs to be Loop's point of view, and blah, 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 and it just came together. I like to reread it. I like to reread it a lot. I love the kiss moment where they just like, it's like that image of the person holding the, what is it, a cheetah or a jaguar? They're like holding the jaguar's face and the jaguar's just like sagging into their hands with a little sad face. Like that is Loop in that moment, just sagging into Sifrin's hands. Like, I give up. Fucking mean girls. They are. I like when they get angry and they have negative thoughts and feelings about each other, and I love pulling the rug from readers. It delights me. So I, not writing anything for so long, I write, in my brain I write in comic format because for some reason I'm convinced that that's my format of choice despite not drawing nearly enough to do that. But so I don't know what you would call everything that isn't dialogue when you're writing in a story format, but I'm pretty new to that. So something I immediately locked onto and adored was being able to have like an immediate internal dialogue amidst the character speaking out loud is like so delightful to me. To have when they like to have extra information and also to have like the juxtaposition and the when they negate whatever they just said, right? And I explained that to a friend and she's like, oh, you're just describing Peep Show. And I was like, oh yeah, am I writing Peep Show? Am I writing a significantly less sexist version of Peep Show? I'll take that. That's a huge compliment. I love Mitchell and Webb. There's a lot of, let's see, where are we at? I'm going back to the chapter by chapter. I liked when they meet up in the park, I did a little hint at Slutty Loop and like two people caught on, one person who I was friends with and one person who had like read everything else that I had done, and they were like, I fucking see what you're doing. I'm like, tee-hee, what? Slutty Loop? What? I would never. Okay, that is chapter 5. Next. Oh, yeah, this was fun, just having Luke come in and top to the party. At this point, I had replayed the prologue, so I had the, like, wine. This is Sifrin immediately after meeting in the park drags Loop to like say hi to everybody, and Loop like just fucking arrived in town and is like, oh cat, and like shakes everybody's hand and reintroduces themselves, and it's so awkward, and they like panic when Bonnie asks them to dinner and has to fucking leave and then goes to a tavern to have a one-night stand. Like that is so I have notes about so in my headcanon, Sifrin develops their crush on Loop during Two Hats when it really hits them just how much Loop has done to help them. So that moment, the sparkly art moment where he's holding their face, right? That to me is the moment where like the crush begins, which is like so rough because like then they die in his arms, right? And so anything like Loop loves the flirting because they think it's so funny. Like, LOL, you're me. Like, this is so stupid that I'm flirting with me, right? It's a gag. And then post ESAT, Sifrin starts getting like uncomfortable about it because of this like unrecognized crush that they have, and Loop of course notices and is like, oh, this is even funnier, and also I can use it to throw them off guard when I need to. So they start like going harder, and then of course it slowly becomes like, oh, the way they react is cute or whatever, right? You know, love to push their buttons. I can't say when Loop develops the crush. It's a really slow build. They've always considered Sifrin to be theirs, ever since like the very first Loop, because like, yeah, of course. And I think the shift really starts when Sifrin becomes less of a pet and more of a partner, like when they are reciprocal in their care for each other. Loop likes to see Sifrin being assertive. They are proud of them. That is what I have for that chapter. And then the big reveal. Ooh, the one night stands. Let's see. Reminds me of the how much did you read and Sifrin vehemently denying scene. Love that one. I love that arc. I got so little comments during the like diary arc that I thought that everyone hated the fact that I put a reference to squirting in the fic and had abandoned it. had maybe a little mini spiral about that. Whoopsie. I don't want it. During Two Hats is killing me. Me and my clone chokes me, and they're kind of cute. No, after the choking, when Sifrin's like, wait a minute, you gave everything to help me and it worked. Sifrin, Loop, it was you. It was always you. It was always you. Loop considering Sifrin theirs is a concept I love so fucking much. Yeah, like, why wouldn't they? Like, truly. Kind of hurt myself and others. Okay, but during the choking would be funny as fuck. Listen, I'm not gonna write an asphyxiation kink, but I think there's plenty of fertile grounds for it. Okay. All right, I need to get into, I literally just like to take my favorite characters and turn them into sluts. It's fun, it's sexy, it's silly, it's delightful. And so that is really all that was, and then I created like plot and character reasons to back it up. I feel like a lot of people really viewed this whole thing as, because it was a coping mechanism, like truly, but I think a lot of people saw this as like a very unhealthy behavior, especially people who kind of like didn't were considering them to be like sex repulsed or sex averse, right? And we're like, oh, are they doing this as a way to punish themselves? And I'm like, I need y'all to understand, of all the coping mechanisms Loop could have used, this is probably the most healthy one, and they were being like so mindful of their own boundaries, y'all. Like, maybe this is not good writing to say, but it was a healthy coping mechanism. As healthy as you can be in these instances, and I just want to stress that. At least that's where my brain was at. Everyone read it as unhealthy. I know. God damn it. It was, I wrote it to be basically like part of their self-discovery while also being like an outlet for connecting to people. And a big part of it was like, their body did not feel like it belonged to them after everything that had happened, and finding this way to like connect with their new body and have it be like an asset to them, like, oh, my body can make me feel good, like that's awesome, and also here's a way to connect to other people, and also I'm like learning a new thing, and also it's a great distraction from all of the shit going on in my head right now. Just like a something I can really focus in on type situation. That's where my head was at with it. Any other shit people want to ascribe to it, I cannot stop you. That's just where I was at. I've always been sex neutral, so it did read as a hobby / positive experience. Yeah, it's 100%. That's where it was at. Like a very sex neutral, like it was very hobby, special interest, hyperfixation type thing of like, this is the new fun thing that I'm doing. And also maybe basing some of their identity off of it, because it's like, oh, this is something Sifrin would never do, so this is something Loop does, and being like delighted at having something they were like supposedly guaranteed would be different from Sifrin. Yes. You got flagged for saying Death of the Opera where we just kill Twink. You got flagged. Anyway, I cannot stop people from having their own interpretation. But that's where I was at. I was gonna also give them similarly some like using alcohol as a coping mechanism, but I knew that was going to run into alcoholism is like a whole trigger warning, and I have a whole thing of like you can self-medicate with alcohol and marijuana without it being a dependency, and I just didn't really want to dig into that in a fanfic, or I always just feel like I'm being fucking defensive or preachy when I talk about it, but I'm like, if you want to read further into canon, Loop is also like drinking in moderation, if you want to add that in. I can't see myself as being someone who's ever going to write about addiction. I'm so anti-addictive, it feels like it would be I wouldn't be able to put myself in the right mind space to get there. Message too powerful for Twitch. No, Twink doesn't get flagged. Saying you're gonna kill me gets you flagged. Does it not like it when you say my name? I've seen my name get bleeped out a couple times. I think it's contextually. Sent me a pop-up one time. I'm sorry. I genuinely don't know how to change the settings on this shit. Twitch is still largely a mystery to me. Yeah, I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about with those, and I think that's the end of my notes. And then, of course, here we have another teaching during sex scene, and then I wanted to set it up. I really was delighted at the idea of, like, Loop thinking their first kiss was with Lunette, but it was actually the practice kiss that they had with Sifrin, so they went this whole time without kissing anyone on the mouth, just lots and lots of kissing other places. And this is, I did have scenes that like never got written of, because I do think it's so funny that the whole time Loop is sleeping around Vogard, they're just like, can we do it with the lights off under the covers, and also I keep all my clothes on? And everyone in Vogard is like, oh yeah, of course. Just like super accommodating. Yeah, man, whatever floats your boat. Must hide at all. Hopefully the lights aren't twinkling out from beneath the covers. Boop, boop, boo. I think that's it for that. Lunette, my dear, my dearest. I'm so happy people liked her. I will say, I have to admit this. I have to stand up in my truth. I did accidentally do a big old racist stereotype. The throwaway black girlfriend. I'm so sorry. It is like a trope in things that, like, when there is a character that the white character that the main character is like destined to be with, but then they'll get like a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever to like cause drama, and they're almost always black, and they're the throwaway black boyfriend or girlfriend. So I'm really sorry about that. I love Lunette so much, and in post-fic they do reconnect and become besties, and Sifrin becomes her coworker, and they all play D&D together. I miss her dearly. Yeah, it is not one people often clock. I clock it now. There's one episode of a show that I was watching where there was a throwaway black boyfriend and throwaway black girlfriend. They were both dumped in the same episode. I was like mouth agape. It does seem to be one of the ones that goes under the radar, like the Asian with colorful hair thing that friggin' no one seems to pick up on. But yeah, I also did, I was like scrolling through, what was it, Netflix, and I saw like a little preview image for Archer, and I did realize I think I subconsciously gave her Lana Kane's hair shape. But I in terms of inspiration, I was watching, what was the show I was watching at the time? It was about the woman who's like a fashion designer. Jesus Christ, monkey balls. I don't know. She had a friend who was an artist, and this character was kind of based off of that. And then just like so much of Bria Iyengar went in there. Especially like the little, like, there's like one episode of D20 where Abria has braids, and then like the extensions, like the hair at the end of the braids, like curls off, kind of like pumpkin stems, and it was so cute and pretty, and I wanted to include that in the hair design. Thinking cat emoji. If you were to write, "It's all still here again," knowing what you know now, do you think you'd change this? That's the thing, I don't know that I could, like, because the character is a throwaway girlfriend at the end of the day, that if I make her anything but white, am I falling into a trap? Like, the character exists as a narrative tool. So I don't know that I would. I also, Lunette is just so like solidified in my mind. I wouldn't want to not have her around. Yeah, it's a rough one. Also, she's trans. I don't know if that came through. I think that went over some people's heads. I was trying to be very like slick and subtle about it by having her putting on estradiol gel during the getting ready in the morning scene. I do not know if that came through. I also did reference later that her breasts were body crafted. Yeah. I don't know. I think maybe it went over some people's heads. I had like a fan art sent. I don't know if I'm allowed to like show fan arts that people like DM'd to me on Tumblr, but I had one that was like Lunette being like, or Luke being like, oh my god, I hope she pegs me tonight, and Lunette thinking, oh my god, I'm so gonna peg them tonight. And I had to respond like, she doesn't need a strap. But of course that canon was never in there. She could have had a bottom surgery. We don't know. I know, you don't know. But I tried to be subtle about it. I tried to not be subtle as much as not just like say it to the audience in a really like patronizing way. Yes, I don't know how much I succeeded and failed for Lunette as a character in general. This is my first genuine attempt at an OC, and people liked her so much more than I expected, and I'm really glad. Yeah, no, she's more or less an Abria Iyengar insert. So I would say if you love her, you're gonna love. Is she on Critical Role? I only see her on D20. I think the way you wrote it was good. Thank you. I really, specifically their getting ready in the morning scene was a real delight to write. But yeah, the original version of Lunette's backstory was gonna be a little bit more brutal in that she bullied the kid's sister into suicide. And I was just like, not only does that not feel like it belongs in a fantasy setting, but that's also maybe too dark. And I did some that was the only time I went to like a non-ESAT friend being like, help me come up with like a medieval manslaughter method, and then completely rewrote it to be a sword fight gone wrong. Yeah, it was way too much. And here's the thing, that version sat around for like way too long. I was just staring at it being like, I can't, right? I can't. But yeah, she's my special, she's a reformed bully, and that's why she works with kids and she runs like the anti-bullying program at the school. And I love her dearly. And she's kind of a jerk. And then we have the playing hooky episode. I love this one. This had them getting ready in the morning, which is one of my favorite back and forths with such good gags in it. And there were just a lot of really great gags and combos in this one this was, I think, the first chapter. I like skipped over a bunch of these first few chapters in terms of like posting twice a week, because I just wanted to get people to this point, because I feel like this is where the fic hits its stride, is in this chapter. Like it comes into his own here. Like everything else felt like set up, and this is like, all right, we're here, this is what we're doing, let's go. I could actually open the chapter and fucking look at it, but I am also looking at the clock saying 6:21, and I mean, once this video starts washing the dragon, I know I'm in the end times. Her failing at helping with the panic attack was a scene I thought was really good. Yelling therapy tactics at you as you cry, scream. Yeah. I mean, she probably like learned some stuff for herself and for students, but like also I do headcanon her as being like not great in an emergency situation. Like she kind of flails and panics pretty easily. It was also nice to just have that little like, I don't know why Odile showed up in that moment, but it just worked out and it felt nice. She's like me for real. Yeah, that's right. And this is the one where their head lights up. Ooh, head stuff. I had so much fun with Loop's whole biology journey. All of my brain meds are wearing off. I hope there are things. I've barely covered any of this fic. I don't know. This is the chapter that killed everybody. It killed me too. It was like 3 different chapters that I combined into one, and that's why it's such a clusterfuck. There's like 3 fucking meltdowns in this chapter alone. This is the one where Loop actually does go to have dinner with the party. I mean, I don't know if I could do a second stream. I don't know. The problem is I could talk about this fic forever, but I need to not allow myself to talk about this fic forever because it's so deeply self-indulgent. But also, Jesus Christ, have I gabbed. I love this. It is so delightful every time I get someone reading this for the first time and they get to this chapter, and because I held myself back from giving end notes because I so wanted it to just sit on its own like that. With the it's okay, it's okay, Starlight, I've got you. Like, fuck you, it's so cute. So this is probably the moment that the Loop crush started. The whole, like, no, I can be your helper too. Also, it was the first time we have art that, I mean, I went back and I re-edited chapter 1 to put art in to some sections that it matched the story, but before that, this was the first time I put, like, in story art, and it turned out really cool. The Loop doing the Odile impression is one of my favorite things I've ever drawn. They look so sassy. But I had a lot of fun with another, like, rug pull moment of, like, what was the thing that I wrote? I wrote a thing on Tumblr forever ago that I never posted about, yes, notes on chapter 11. Okay. So Sifrin says a thing to Loop on the beach when they're talking, and I wanted to sort of, like, give a little context. Sifrin says, no, I know you want to help me. You're always helping me. You always answer when I call, and I just keep asking for more, pushing you into spending time with me and my family when you clearly don't want to. I'm clingy, I'm broken, and you've moved on. You're making friends and trying new things, and you've moved on from the Loops, and I don't want to drag you back into them. Which, you know, we've been following Loop's POV, so this sounds fucking insane. We know, you know, we played the game, like, we know this is not a thing. So here I've written, he's reacting to how much it seems to be harming Loop to be around the party, as well as Loop's adamant avoidance of seeing him specifically in person, because they've been playing hooky with all day and avoiding, because, you know, they promised Sifrin they would hang out that morning and then just, like, fully ignored his calls, right? On top of hearing how happy Loop was prior to visiting, Sifrin sees Loop acting very well adjusted and then falling apart the second they start interacting with him in the party. That's where the assumption is coming from. Yeah, they're not reliable narrators. Similarly to, I think in that same chapter, Loop thinking everyone looks horrified when in actuality they're just startled. Like, babe, just because you gained some clarity from watching yourself and your friends as an outside spectator does not mean you're actually perceptive. So that was something I wrote forever ago and then never posted. The hug. We love self-indulgency in this house. I mean, that is fanfiction, ain't it? Oh, God's this scene. It hurts so much. Let's all blow up. There's sand. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I really loved the conversation in this. I love them looking after each other. It's really important to me. Slumber party. I don't know that I have much to say on a lot of these chapters on an individual level. There are probably bits that I, like, really adore and am skipping over. I should drink water. I talk, I don't hydrate, I talk. Let me just pull up the actual fucking chapter. Oh, let me be your helpful sponsor. Shut up, Sifrin. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Of course, we have to have Odile come in and call Loop adorable. I mean, Loop said like horrible things to them all at the dinner party, like threatened to fucking kill them all, truly. And their reaction to it is just like, I like that it's the same as when Sifrin does his big blow up. Like, Odile just comes and pats their head and is like, oh, you're so cute. Also that if you want a bed to yourself, you could always smother him in their sleep. And then Loop still hides their skin. What else is going on in this? Just more of them talking out their feelings. Being awkward and cute. My brain is really starting to turn into jelly. I don't know that I can keep going through each individual piece. Is there like a section of the... I don't think I can go through it one by one. So is there like a specific section of the story that people would like me to talk about? There's 27 more of these. I know. And my brain is really starting to melt. Otile's looking at both Sifrin and Loop and going, dude, let these two cats in here. I love people in the comments calling them the kitties. Even though they did become the bunny and the kitty, they are still both the kitty cats the way they interact with each other. I love the art book thing that describes Odile's perspective as seeing Sifrin like an angry little cat in Act 5. Doesn't she also have the line, like, maybe one day we'll get to pet them? Or that might have been Mirabelle. Dude, these cats need to be pet immediately. Petting my sifloop. Dark cat and light cat vibes. Yeah, and they get cats when they move to Bambouche because of course they do. God damn it. I have feelings about it. Let me just look at the actual chapter list. What do we got? Slumber Party in Scars and Binds. Oh, I love that. Pain, Gender Euphoria, Oreo. That's my favorite chapter title out of all of them, In Scars and Binds. It's so fucking stupid clever and I love it. This Kissn't Working is also so fucking good. This Kissn't Working, the kiss that Sifrin and Isabeau have is based on real life, and I'm sorry to say it was not duck confit, it was nachos. I don't like boys, as it turns out. I get crushes on boys. I don't want to kiss or date them. It's a weird combination. The demisexuality, it does do weird shit. The diary reveal. I hope that I tried to format, I don't know if this came across, I tried to format Sifrin reading the diary as like speeding through, like they were jumping from entry to entry to entry and then only reading a little bit of each entry. I don't know if that read, but that's what I was going for in that like that, I mean, that wasn't the whole book and those weren't the whole entries. Might come in handy. Shut the fuck up, Twink. Stupid. I love the reveal. I really loved exploring both of their relationships with sexuality. It was like a really fun thing. I love a demisexual Sifrin who like is like, this is whatever, and then gets like a hardcore crush on someone, and then it's like, oh, this is not whatever. I have a libido. What the fuck is going on? Is a friend divorce? You write with the soul of a lesbian. I should hope my soul is a lesbian. Where's that one edit of her Act 5 convo at the end where instead of her normal dialogue it says, I forgive you, kid? Shut the fuck up. Oh, how about Star Arms Solidarity? That's a fun chapter. Yeah, the date one. I really liked that. I don't know, I feel like I covered a amount of that. Chapter 32? What's chapter 32? Is that Star Arms Solidarity? Yeah, Star Arms Solidarity. I like the chapters 28 through 32 just being this kind of like standalone sifloop fanfic. If you just want to read like the sifloop portion of it, like I think it can read as a standalone. I don't know, I feel like I covered a lot of things about the date. It was so funny because I fucking hate writing a date. I hate it. I think it's so boring. And then I was like, I have to write a date. I think I do actually have to write one because there's just some things that need to happen about it. Um, I liked accidentally calling Petra their sister. There's definitely going to be a point down the line where eventually, like, maybe years in the future where there's finally acknowledgement of like Bonnie is their kid, but I think that's going to be a little bit more awkward. Did I talked about Mira and Isa. I wanted to talk about Mira a little bit. I was when I was doing my notes while playing the game, something that I found really interesting about Mira and Sifrin's relationship is when she initially mentions the slumber party and Sifrin like doesn't react enough, and her immediate thing is to be like, yeah, it's childish, it's a bad idea, it's like a childish idea, and it kind of puts into perspective like Mira is the second youngest person in the party next to the kid, and Sifrin is the second oldest, and is very like kind of capable, mature, mysterious, and Mira definitely is like so much of her story does feed into this of her sort of feeling like a kid who doesn't know what she's doing. And it isn't like hugely explored within her story as much as it is just sort of the backdrop for it, that she's very much like that person in her early 20s that is like, I have to learn about everything at once, Jesus Christ, what am I doing? And so that was something that was like really, really fun to delve into when having her and sorry, I got distracted by my own notes. You know, we're not going to talk about that. That's nothing. Go away with that. Yeah, it's just something that I found interesting and I found fun digging into it. That chapter was interesting in that, like, them talking about, oh, how I still feel like a kid all the time, is actually not something I relate to. Just the way that I go about my life, like, I very much feel like, and like I understand that feeling of like I've been the same person since I'm a kid, and that's like a feeling I can't quite shake, but like I very much view myself as an adult and whatnot, and have for several years now, but like I know that is a very common thing that people feel. Like I remember the actress who played Sarah Jane on Doctor Who had like a whole thing she was talking about it, but like I wrote that and I was like, this feels disingenuous because I'm writing about feelings I know that other people had. The outpouring of affection and of people loving that chapter and feeling seen from that back and forth made me feel so good as a writer, because I was like, cool, I was able to take this thing that like I don't feel but understand and was able to write it correctly. It was like such a big boon that I was like, I'm so glad that it doesn't all have to come from me, that I'm capable of like putting together pieces of other people's stuff to make something that still works. I found the image of Odile. I sent it to you on Discord. Thank you. Also killed me the suggestion Sifrin may have had siblings. Dude, as an oldest, I saw it in him when I was playing the game, like immediately. I was like, there's no way that this dude does not have younger siblings. They were just exhibiting all of the signs, the way that they like, you know, selflessly are like looking after their party and like trying to protect people and trying to be like the sacrificial savior of everyone, and the way that they're like so good with kids, and that like they're, you know, before the whole eye thing, they were Bonnie's person, you know. Just all of it really feeds into this thing of like, yeah, also that they were so young when they left the island, but still like were taking care of people's hair, which was an interesting, like, I don't know that younger kids normally do that unless there's kids that are younger than them that they're looking after. Like, I don't know that he would have been doing that for adults, but also I don't know. Yeah, all the signs are there. This one is an oldest sibling. It's heartbreaking and it kills me, and I did have to put that heartbreak line at the end of the Petrony chapter. Oh, speaking of Petra, the whole reason that the fic was written was that fucking Toy Story that toy store chapter when I was when the fic lived exclusively in my head, and I got to that part and it just was so perfect and devastating, and I loved the relationship between them, and I was like, I actually do think I need to write this now. I do actually think I need to take a crack at doing a big girl long fic and make this happen, because this is just too wonderful. So thank you, Petra, for inspiring me. I was at a toy store recently, and it's fun. I was looking at the kits, literally just thinking, like, which of these did Loop take home and try to do and fail at doing? They would hate needle felting. I love needle felting. Would they get the little, like, dinosaur fossil kit that's like a dirty egg that you get the little plastic bones out of? I love needle felting. Let's see. Yeah, the Petra, I think maybe my brain is a little too cooked to delve into my Petra feelings that I have quite a lot of. I just think it would be really, really hard for her to weave her way into the family dynamic. I think they're just so, like, tight with each other, and then they would probably be so preoccupied with their shit that they would not really make an effort to include this person. And of course, Petra is a person who, like, has CPTSD, right? So, like, I'm sure she would really struggle to ingratiate herself in this way. So it was important to me to have that represented and have Loop sort of, like, see that in her, and Sifrin to an extent, because I think they're all very much peas in a pod like that. The stolen childhood crew. Loop would hate needle felting, and I look sadly at the Loop I just needle felted, but that Loop is happy to have been needle felted. They didn't have to do it themselves. The Bonnie chapter. The Dragon Tamers books is not based on any particular books. It is sort of based on those pulp fiction. There's the pony, there's the Babysitters Club, and then there's one about like the pony club that was just like girls who had horses and went on adventures, and there was these heavily serialized pulp fiction, and that they were literally printed on that, like, thin pulp paper that they put Goosebumps on. So it was loosely based off of that. And it was just like, what if the horses was dragons? And then it was just like a bunch of teenage angst. But with cool dragons. I love writing Bonnie interactions so much. That's me and my big sister coming through. Just, like, kids are so fun and silly, and I love interacting with them. And getting to write that with Bonnie is cool. And then also I created this little thing for myself where I got to give more of Loop's sad backstory of getting expelled from school for trying to defend themselves with a knife, not realizing that, like, hey, people, like, you know, beating people up is not great, but if you defend yourself with a knife, the consequences are kind of worse. And little Sifrin just, like, not understanding and getting kicked out of school is so sad. There is also, it didn't get included, Sifrin post farm, because they know Potarian and they know Potarian plays, so I headcanon in this universe anyway, that after the farm, they find their way into a traveling theater group that travels around Potaria, and they just work and they do odd jobs and sort of learn the language and take in the shows. 'Cause that makes me happy. Oh my god, Sifrin's school years. I cannot get over that thing you wrote about them being tiny and homeless, and I'm still laughing about it. That was something I like, the differences of how they, like, internally talk about that experience, that, like, fuck, I can't remember who was who, but one of them was just casually like, yeah, you were getting the shit kicked out of you on the daily for being tiny and homeless. Just matter of fact, a bit of, like, a joking quality to it. Whereas the other one is just kind of like sad and vague about it. Writing the differences between them is really fun, especially when I did that challenge where I rewrote a chapter. I rewrote a crying shame chapter from Sifrin's perspective and realized in writing it that Sifrin's motivations in that chapter make no fucking sense whatsoever, and having to like scramble to make that work. I did all right, but it's not the best thing. I love that I wrote that chapter really early on, and it didn't change a whole lot between the edits and changes, so it was one of those things. I had the like crying during sex set up back in like December when I was like meeting everyone for the first time, and everyone was like, oh, I want a sifloop fic where they cry during sex, and I'm like, just wait several months and the chapter of my long fic will come out with it. Jesus Christ, had to sit on that for so long. I hope those people found it. You can read that. You can read those chapters out of context. I don't give a fuck as long as it gets read and appreciated. How about the Odile chapter? Their relationship is so special to me. The idea of like they're the me, like everyone in the group is so fucking nice, and they're the ones that have just this like stored up venom and vitriol that they just need to fucking expel in a bitch fest together, and that builds up this like trust. And then also this thing of like I love Odile and Isabeau's relationship. I do think there's an element to her and Loop's relationship that they are more similar as people. That I think maybe Odile and Isa are more like fun time friends. Like they're the ones who party and laugh and joke together, but also like they're definitely like the masterminds that discuss like interpersonal stuff in the group and how to like look after everybody and make sure everything goes swimmingly for everyone, and like they, you know, working the mastermind angles. But then with Loop, it's just like, hey, did you hear about this crazy party that I went to when I was in my mid-20s or whatever? Like, I don't know that that's the kind of relationship that she has with Isabeau, especially because it's so funny keeping him in the dark on these things. I think a lot of what she does is motivated by like, what is the funniest way to go about this? Yes, their relationship means a lot to me. And when I wrote Odile's part of the wish ceremony at the end, I cried a lot. Hers and Petra's made me cry for real, and it sucked. I don't know if that's enough about. I could go into my like, I didn't want to solidify any huge headcanons about the island, because the more you dig into it, the more the story becomes about it, because it is just so deeply ingrained into the character and the world that if I wanted to focus on other things, I really just needed to like not touch it in any significant way. So I had to be very careful with them and Odile of like, how do I get them to not spiral out or dig too deep or create too many like headcanons that will come back to bite me in the ass later. I don't know. I think maybe I got it done. Let's see. Let's get into the breakdown. I love the breakdown so much. So fun to write. I love to write a crash out. The compliments that I get is I write good crash outs, and I write good slice of life conversations, and I agree. I really love both. Oh, please do illustrate fucking any of it. I mean, I will never not be over the moon about people drawing shit about this fic, or honestly, I mean, you can make fanfic of the fanfic. I will owe you my soul. Like, I can't even. The few pieces that I've gotten have actually like broken me a little bit in how much it delights me that I've been blessed with such a thing. Let's see. I love writer Sifrin, and artisan Loop was so fun to get into. I loved Sifrin being a playwright. I just think that's so special. There was a whole I started to fully like write out the script of Sifrin's play for a while until I realized like that's not what's happening here. Like that's not what we need to be giving broad strokes. We can't give like actual dialogue or I'm going to get lost in the weeds. And so I do have like a few portions I might post of like the play. Cuz some of it was cute and fun and I was delighted about it, but you know. Let's see. I'm going through the breakdown. This was hovering over my head for the longest fucking time. For the breakdown chapter, I imagine a conversation that kicked everything off that Loop and Petra had about Petra noticing, like, you call everybody by their nicknames except for me and Bonnie, and then, like, they sort of, like, dug into, like, why do you do that, blah, blah, and it, like, pushing Loop too far. I imagined it. I didn't write it down before I forgot it. And so I just had like a note sitting in this empty fucking document for months and months and months. And I would just stare at it and I would be like, this is the most fucking important, because I hinged so much plot after that on that scene that didn't exist. And I just stare at it and get so angry that like the most important thing I had written in this fic is like not written. The epilogue made me feel very emotional. He is living his life. Yeah. And then he becomes a drama teacher and is good with kids. I love this bit when Petra just like keeps saying like too much and Loop is like, calm it. Petrany! And then we get to have that mirror moment of when Sifrin shouted at Bonnie during the friend quest, right? Also, I rewrote this a bunch, like, you're so good at anticipating their needs that they don't even notice. It's like you're trying to control the like, I had a lot of, like, puppeting or, like, writing their scripts or I was like, and I'm like, you need to drop the symbolism and just, like, be very literal about it. I liked that. And then we have the red eye. Okay, here's something that Nico pointed out. Sifrin and Loop don't know that the color red is called the color red. And I had it in my head because I was reading a lot of fanfics at the time, and there was one fanfic where it was described to them as like a very visceral shade and it's pronounced red. And so I had it in my head that like that happened in canon, and I'm not changing it now. We're just gonna assume that at some point before the fic started, they learned that red is called red, because otherwise it's so insulting to the audience to be like, that weird shade, like just say it's red, dog. It's okay. We know it's red. Yeah, you got my ass. It's fine. And then yeah, we get into like Loop's. I didn't really get into it early in the story like I wanted to, but the idea of Loop being made of pure bodycraft means that they are like really overpowered to a point that I think would be just like so scary on top of their sort of flimsy mental state. And I liked having it mirror their mental state. And I don't know, I think it does add a certain level of murkiness in terms of like the themes of mental health and recovery, but in universe is very interesting and fun. And the idea, I think a couple of people got confused about this. Loop is not using timecraft, or like basically they're using speed buffs. They're using what's it called, make up the time, but like to such an overpowered extent that it is speeding them faster than like the rate. Like, it is making them move so fast. Like in Futurama when Fry drinks 300 coffees, it is speeding them up so fast that everything else seems to stand still. Which is why everything really like reeks of wishcraft later, because it's like it's their regular, I have to assume scissors craft, right? But getting like supercharged by the wishcraft. And I don't know it. I mean, maybe the speed buffs and debuffs do count as timecraft. I don't know for that in universe, but that is what is happening there. If there was any confusion about it. I love all of this. I love them being evil to Bonnie. I'm really, really delighted about them being evil to Bonnie. Especially the line, and I did put it in the preview because I'm so delighted for it, of, "Aw, kid, you're gonna trap me forever with no means of escape?" And then like their smile falls away and just they have that, like the dark, hollow expression. That's kind of a trigger for me, you know? It's like such a visceral image in my head. I am delighted by. But Bonnie stands their ground. They're a badass. So mean to them. Nah, they hug and make up. Bonnie does see them die, though. That's not great. That's straight to therapy with you. Onward to therapy. And then they go to Stardust and they cry, and then Stardust falls asleep, and they spiral and spiral and spiral. What's the bit? There's so many lines in this that are so funny to me, and I'm so happy that I wrote them. My precious little gems of me being a funny, clever little guy. I must pull up the one. I must pull up the one from Used to Be Mine, because it fucking kills me every goddamn time. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? No. Yes, there it is. It's Loop talking to Isabeau. "So I guess I don't hate you. I just hate the way you act. Like an absolute crab. You are what you eat." You wiggle your eyebrows. "You what? Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to call me an asshole." Something that really delights me is that Loop isn't super into this. Loop is super like not into puns. Like they're not about it, and so they've discovered dirty humor is kind of like not as, used to be sort of uncomfortable to them, but now they're just like, that's how they talk, and they're really like into it as like a personality trait of like, yeah, Sifrin's the pun one, but I'm the one that makes Sifrin uncomfortable by making sex jokes all the time, and just like really delighting in that. Like, this is my personality now. I'm the rude, crude Comedy Central dude, right? It's like my favorite. It just makes everyone just so like, oh my god, just shut up, until eventually like Sifrin sort of gets into it, which I really love the little back and forth they have outside of the tavern of like, don't tell me you're pregnant, like, yes, and it was from a member of the royalty. Well, what shall you name the bastard? We're thinking of going bastard to make it easy, to make it quick and easy, much like its conception. Which, hey, Sifrin, you made a dirty joke, yay! Loop's so corny, they must have been born on the cob. Yup. The cutie cob. This doesn't have to be on the screen, does it? I don't need it. Just wash the remainder of, yeah, it's the dragon. We're at the end. There's only 3 minutes left. Fuck, what was the other? This is fine. I'm going back to the breakdown. I love the breakdown. I had a lot of fun. I mean, I posted about it before, all the ideas that I had for the breakdown. Something that I came to was I was trying to write the ending and it wasn't working and it wasn't working and it wasn't working. And then for the first time this entire fucking fanfiction, I actually had to use like a writer method. And then I had to go and say, all right, what works about other finales? And I wrote out like all my favorite finales and I was like, what works? How could this work? And what I came across was the fact that I have basically been writing Spinell in the Steven Universe movie. And at the exact same time, I also realized that Spinell is an analog for Flowey, and that Rebecca Sugar wrote the Steven Universe movie to basically be Undertale. So I love Spinell. Spinell is, I don't kin, but if I did, Spinell will be on the list hardcore. I just want to be a friend. I just want to be a silly little guy. I have abandonment issues. Yeah, so basically what I did is I sort of took that like Undertale, Flowey, Spinell, Steven Universe sort of ending and like remapped that, because the way that I was ending it was more of a I was unconsciously going with more of a fooly cooly thing that just didn't work, where I kind of had like Loop sort of realizing how they were fucking up or something, but I was like, no, but what it needs to be is Loop keeps going until they're too tired to continue. They keep going until they reach the point of no return, basically. And then once I had that in line, things were going much more smoothly, and then I hit that point that I just fucking adore, where, you know, basically Odile is like, you know, you're not gonna hurt us, you're just trying to scare us. And so Loop does their thing where they fucking like try and scare everybody, and so they pin Isabeau to the ground, and Isa just fucking laughs in their face and says, "Do it, coward." And then they go for first they go for Mira, and they lift Mira in the air, and Mira puts on a little like sad sob, like, "Loop, you're hurting me," and giving them like a big pout. and then they poise themselves above Odile, like claws and teeth, about to touch her, and she just smirks and goes, "Oh, you couldn't even touch me, could you? Honestly, Loop, didn't you say you were a good actor?" Fucking that line is so hard. And once I got to that point, I knew that I had done it. I was like, yes, this is good, we're on the right track. And then of course I get to mirror the end of the start again by having Bonnie offer them food. I also have some candy, but I know you don't really like stuff that's too sweet. Yeah. Yeah, originally they were like a lot of the stuff that I had Bonnie and Petrus say in the next chapter, where it was in this chapter, and it was like they soothed the beast, but I don't know. I like kind of the aggressive love in this. Like, Isa in these past couple chapters is some of my favorite stuff, where he's just, yeah, you'll hurt us, and then we'll recover. Get over yourself. It's like such a great like splash of cold water for somebody who's like really fucking spiraling out about how much they're gonna hurt everybody. And then, of course, the just fucking devastating, like, Loop sobbing, "Please don't leave me," as they fucking melt into a puddle. I was told to trigger warn major character death. I simply can't. I mean, not only would it be, you know, temporary character death, which is like, that's like 80 million spoilers. I think at some point you just have to let a person be surprised by it. Like, I don't know. I simply don't think there's any way to trigger it without completely killing it. My BPD Spinell. Oh god. You can experience what Flowey and Spinell did by having a personality disorder. Yay! Or by being like ruthlessly like your best friend in the whole world just fully like tricking and abandoning you. Like, yeah, that'll fucking do it. Leaving you to die. There's an option for that on AO3 yet. Like, author chose not to use warnings. Oh, yeah, but I think that applies more for the whole fic. I don't know that I would I'm just gonna leave it be until it causes a major problem, I suppose. Because I tag literally everything else. I don't know. I just don't think it's an issue with this. And then okay, last night I saw somebody comment on the chapter before the illustrated chapter. Like, I caught my inbox right as they did it, and then I was like sitting there, I was like, oh my god, they're reading the chapter for the first time right now. And it was just like really like flooring me of like, I put so much goddamn work into this thing. I put so much goddamn work into the fucking the you died gif. I'm not an animator, but my god, I tried my hardest. Where is it? Towards the end. Come on, come on, come on. There's the kiss again. Come on, come on, come on. And here we have all the chapter preview art. Ah. Oh no, I'm cleaning the dragon. The video's almost done. Ah, I love that one. I love Luke's face in that. Yes. Yes. This one's probably my favorite chapter art. They're just so cute here. This one sucked to draw. I hate drawing birds. I hate it. That one turned out cool. That one needs to be more emotive, but it's fun. This one is great. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and I did it in Procreate, so it was awkward as fuck. I love all the art you use in the fic. I'm gonna go crazy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shut up. Rips off my shirt. I had so much fun putting the Change God in there. Everything the Change God says, it's my favorite fucking thing. I love poking fun at myself of being like, they're doing a whole anime movie ending out there, everyone putting all of their love magic together to save the day, because that's how every anime movie ends. Everyone puts all of their love magic into the center to save the day. That's how they bring Ash back to life. That's how they make Deku go Super Saiyan. I don't know, man. Every single one. Put all the fire magic together to make all the fire people go away. I don't know, man. And then of course the line that I really, really love of, why are you helping me? I'm gonna go over time. I just want to wrap up. I just want to get to the wrap up part. Promare ending, grr. Why are you helping me? And then quotes Loop, because I think you should be helped. LOL, it's a Deus Ex Machina, BB, or I guess Deus Mutationis Machina, which is Deus Ex Machina is Hand of God, which I then put through the machine to make a Hand of Change God. Them calling themselves a Deus Ex Machina is very funny to me. Also, like, the universe said they were sorry. Ooh, we're sorry. Ooh, here's your little body back. Thank you. We love you. We're so proud of you. Ooh, the universe doesn't have feelings. I really loved writing Change God. That was fun. It was hard to get, like, I kept accidentally capitalizing things and using real words instead of, like, you are, or whatever the fuck. But finding all the little emojis was cute. And then, the big illustrated section with the hallway that took forever to draw, and the beach and the boat that took forever to draw, and all the little characters that took forever to fucking draw. There was just no other way. I was going to illustrate everything from this point forward, but I deeply, deeply ran out of time, and now I'm glad that I wrote out the middle segment of giving the kid the bath. This writing is like maybe the most vulnerable I've ever been in my writing, of the whole like looking after your inner child is like it is like a genuine like psychological exercise that is good for like post-traumatic stress disorder and just in general of like imagining yourself looking after your inner child, like imagine yourself you know, you go back to a situation where you could have used help, and then imagine yourself now, like, giving your child self the help that they need, give your inner child a hug. Like, it's a whole thing. I don't want to do it, but you should. But also it's just a really fun moment to have that, like, you know, let's go back and look over everything we've learned. And so having, like, you know, everybody in the story has described Loop in some respect, and having them, like, put all of those together to make a clear picture of who they are as a person. I'm also a big fan of you're a friend, a partner, a sibling, a parent. Parent, Sif, and Loop are so fucking important to me. They just are Bonnie's parents. I respect everybody's take on that, but they adopted that kid. There's no two ways about it. And then I always fucking cry. I always fucking cry when they say I love you, because you're easy to love, and I'm trying not to cry again. It's so important. And then the child becomes the star in their chest, a wish for themselves, and they exit through their own star. I love how it turned out within my abilities. I mean, of course, I wish I was better at art, then things would look better, and there would be more panels, and there would be extra sections, and blah, 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 blah. But, and then I was very excited, like, I don't know how I would show this because it's immediately from Loop's point of view, but, like, they have, like, a headless body on the ground, and then just suddenly, like, a firework explodes out of the neck hole and is a Loop's head again, and they just, jeez, your faces, who died? It's such a dick move. Yeah, and then this chapter also sort of made me cry some more. I loved when they were putting all of their, like, wishes into the middle, and having Issa just being like, I still hate your guts and I'm gonna fart on your grave. And Sifrin being like, I thought you guys were getting along. Why are you doing this when they're, like, on their deathbed? I like writing angry Isabeau. I think you should be angry. I think Bonnie should tell on him for saying he was gonna fart on them. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else to say. I don't know if there's any questions anyone wants to put forth. I clearly have many thoughts and feelings, but I have lost the ability to pull them from the ether. Oh my god. The specifically in the not epilogue, but, like, final chapter, the Bonnie conversation fucking annihilates me. I also really, something that is so special is when they're talking about getting a house with Petra and being like, I'm really excited to get a shelf. And she's like, a shelf? And I'm like, yeah, you put things on a shelf and they'll be there later. You put important things, things you'll use, things that you want to remember. And she's like, oh, yep, no, I get it. I understand. Yeah, we'll get lots of shelves, but I just think Loop and Sifrin deserve a house. I love my shelves too, man. I love a shelf. And also them reading up on something that I really... Did I put it in there? I had a bit of, like, Petra being like, yeah, you have abandonment issues because your whole childhood abandoned you. Like, huh. Yeah, it's pretty true, huh? Content for the memory shelf. I have a circular shelf that I store memory objects on. Cute! I like that. I mainly just group things by how much I use them, and the farther away they are from my grubby little hands, the more of the things I just like looking at. Yeah, I don't know that I have much else to say as I sort of just, like, go through the end of this. I really second guessed myself on the whole them getting engaged thing at the end. I was like, this is too amnormative bullshit, and then Jinx posted on Tumblr, like, what if they got married? I want to see them get married. And I was like, I'm not the only one who just wants to be a fucking dork about them getting married. Okay, then I guess that means other people will want to read it too, and I'll just be fucking self-indulgent about it. So cute. I love how the play turned out. And also that people liked how the play turned out. Was there were a lot of pieces of this that I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go over, but yeah, shit, I might be out of stuff to say. Which is good because we're 12 minutes over time and the video has stopped playing. We'll just make this guy bigger. I'm sure there was stuff that I wanted to talk about. There's always shit that I want to talk about this fic, to be honest, and I should have known that it would have it would not have fit into a 3-hour time slot. Or maybe it would have had I not gotten fully sidetracked talking about, I don't know, periods or whatever. But that's important information to have. Yeah. Anybody have any parting thoughts or questions before I lay this to rest? Of course, obviously, like, is Lunette free tonight? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just fucking go to Bamboosh and she'll paint you like one of her Vogardian women. Could fic extra kudos. Thank you. I'm insanely I so want to be humble about it, but I enjoy rereading it. I'm proud of what I've done. It really feels like a culmination of my skills, and the response to it has been fucking flooring. And it's hard for me to not just like preen about it. Just like, yes, tell me how amazing I am. But I also have reached a point where these guys are no longer my blorbos. I have sort of put them and their story to rest. I love talking about them. I love talking about the process. I love talking about how it characterizes things from ESAT and like how I interpreted it. But I've sort of moved on from it, but I have not moved on from blowing smoke up my own ass. That's the problem. I like to pat myself on the back. On to the college fic we go. Yay! I am stoked. The college fic is a long fic, even though it feels like it's going pretty fast. I would love to end on some spoilers for that, so I'll just wrap up everything that I have to say about this fic. Thank you so much to everybody for reading it, and for being here, and for watching the VOD after the fact. I will still, of course, always take questions and comments about, like, until the day I die, I will still be available for discussing. It's all still here. I just feel like I need to stop languishing in it, you know? I need to stop just being totally like self-congratulatory about it. But I do like talking about it. So anyway, any future questions or discussions I'm still happy to do. This isn't like the end of an era or whatever. This is just a last hurrah, so to speak. Yeah, anyway, thank you. This has been a really magical experience. This whole thing, like, holy shit, I can't even believe any of this happened and that people recognize my name. Weird. And now I'm going to talk just like for 5 minutes about college fic. So if you don't want spoilers for Out of Your League, this is where you must leave. It's happening now. So in the latest chapter, I wanted to get bye, Nico. I wanted to get that chapter out before now. It is the one where they go to New Year's festivals. Bye, Otter. They go to a New Year's festival and they make a wish in the well. And ooh, what's that? Sifrin doesn't just make a wish. Sifrin makes the wish. Yes. This is a time loop fic. I don't know if I want to put that in the main tags, because this fic to me is like a series of rug pulls. I'm really excited about the amount of fucking rugs that I will be pulling out from underneath people in this fic, and so I'm like, I don't know how much I want to put tagged prior at the top. I might have to put just time loop in general. But I'm very excited because it's extra shitty, because like it is a year-long time loop, which is so brutal, not only by way of being brutal, but brutal by way of they're in college. They have to take all of their fucking classes all over again. So I did want to spoil that. I'm very, very excited. It is funny to me, there have been some people calling this the like peaceful, silly college AU, and I'm like, it's not like it won't be silly, but peaceful, oh boy, no. This is going to be front to back angst. I'm doing the Doki Doki Literature Club thing, and that it is going to be very happy-go-lucky until we hit the fan, and then everything will start to unravel. I'm also very, very excited to dig into Manic Pixie Dream Girl stuff with Loop, and like the way that we only know about them through Sifrin's point of view is something that I'm very excited to play with as we sort of break down that trope. I rewatched 500 Days of Summer recently for research, and next I gotta watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind to kind of get into the stuff. I think that's all that I am able to share without giving huge amounts of the story away. I tagged Sifrin and Isabeau's a couple in this one again, because they do canonically date in this one. So that's not a bait and switch this time. That is a canon thing. So can I please ask if Loop is also in the loop? No pressure for an answer. I cannot confirm nor deny. It's gonna be fucky. It's not quite... The rules of the loop don't work the same way that they work in the game. It's gonna be a bit different. But it's going to be fun. I still have one or two fun chapters, I think, before I get to all that. I just haven't really been in a writing mood lately, and it's breaking me heart because I'm excited because the exciting chapters are already written. I'm excited to show everyone, so I'm really trying to push myself to get there so that I can show everybody and explode everything. It should be fun, and I hope people like it, and also streaming has been really fun. I normally play video games and say funny things, or draw and say funny things, or tell stories or whatever. If you are not familiar with all of that, my streaming schedule can be found on my Tumblr. The pinned post has a link called Streaming that takes you to the schedule post if you want to check that out. Because I've been having a lot of fun with that, and I get better every stream. So if you're like, oh, that wasn't very good, come back a couple weeks later. I bet it'll be better. Better and better. This was fun and terrifying. Anyway, thank you so much to everyone who showed up and to everyone who is watching at a later date. I'm honored. I'm like so genuinely fucking honored. It really means a lot, and I'm excited to keep sharing things with y'all as time goes on. This is a really fantastic community that I'm just so lucky to be a part of. All right, I love you all. Take care of yourself. Drink water, get some food, take your meds, be kind to yourself, forgive yourself for the things that you have no control over, and have a little treat. And make a plan. Just make like a plan to do one thing. It's nice to have something on the schedule. Maybe it's a little nice thing. Maybe it's a phone call with a friend. I don't know, man. Just make a little plan. Make that doctor's appointment you've been putting off. All right. Love you. Bye-bye. Bye. 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 Bye.